Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. Tonight, we will be going beyond the veil, straight to Ground Zero. We're going to be joining Clyde Lewis on Ground Zero here in just a few moments, and I talked to Ron Patton, who is just an awesome guy. He's been a big supporter of the show for so long, and I don't give Ron enough props. So, thank you, Ron, from the for all the support that you have given us over the years from the bottom of our hearts, and our heart space from our raw consciousness. But anyways, we will be joining Clyde here in a few moments. I don't know if we're going to do a 1-hour interview with him or 2-hour interviews, but we are going to talk about glitches in the Matrix. Somebody said I didn't receive a notification, but somehow I'm here. I know I suspected from that YouTube hasn't been sending out notifications on this particular show. It glitches sometimes. So there's another glitch in the Matrix right there, a glitch in YouTube where it's not sending out our notifications to people. So we're going to talk, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Everything that we do pretty much is completely unscripted. And even when we had George Cavassalis on, we said, hey, what are you going to talk about? I don't know. Let's just open our mouth, see what happens. And even the intro, George is going to talk about 2020 vision, this and that, totally off the top. And we get into this amazing conversation. So we're going to do it again tonight like that with Clyde. Cherie has some stories about glitches in the Matrix, though, that we might go over as well. But maybe we'll talk about some Mandela effects, what these glitches in the Matrix means as well. Now, what I have learned from going on shows like this in the past, and I just want to preface for the Beyond the Veil audience here, and Mrs. Gio's right there, she's going to join us here in a second, is that I find that a lot of the audience that listens to Sirius XM, that listens to AM and FM stations, Clyde, I think he's on like 200 AM and FM stations or something like that, they're not the typical Beyond the Veil kind of listeners. They haven't reached those levels of consciousness. So it's always a struggle to try to keep it a little more grounded. But I'm going to try to do that tonight. So I just wanted to let everybody know out there, we are going to keep it a little more grounded. But after the show, we may get into some even deeper Beyond the Veil type stuff. So we're just going to kind of play it by ear, just kind of see how it goes tonight. But we have experienced many glitches in the Matrix. That has actually kind of been a theme of some of our recent shows. So I think that's totally cool. So I think we have a little bit of time to kill. And since we do, I got a new track from the studio today, and I like this. What the process, the way it works is I'll put the tracks together and send them a rough mix down, and then they'll do like a real pro mix down where they're like sending it through like all the hardware compressors and limiters and all kinds of stuff like that to really beef up the sound. Then they send it back to me, and then I go, well, it's a little too harsh here, there's too many highs or there's too many lows, or I don't like this or I don't like that, and so that's kind of the process until we find a mix that everybody's happy with. But because everybody has different styles, but in this particular mix I think it came out really well. The only thing I don't like about it is the opening chorus. I think it's a little bit too far in the background, but my instructions were, look, this song is about a DMT experience, so I want it to sound like you're in a DMT experience. Now I did all of the processes on the vocals, like all the different kind of weird twisting and turnings that you'll hear in the verses, because it's supposed to be like you're inside of a DMT experience. But it's a really cool song. I wrote it about 8 months ago or so, and finally got the first master. So maybe a few more adjustments to it, but I think it's really cool. So I wanted to play it for you. This one is called, I have played it in the past. This one is called All I See Is Light. And we were actually kicking around some titles during the show last time I played it. And again, it was a really rough mix back then. But we decided to go with that. All I See Is Light. And it's like the eye, all I see is light. So check it out. All right. So I think that came out pretty good. What do you think, Mrs. Gio?
I think take it there.
The kitties can't be wild on the mixer tonight, though.
Yeah.
I think we should expel them from the studio for the evening, just simply because we're going on with Clyde, and Clyde's audience is a little more, it's radio. We used to do radio. We don't do, your mic's muted.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We used to do radio. Now we just do YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's so much more laid back. We get to be like really us. It's not so, it's not so,
constrained?
Yeah.
Constrained.
Yeah. But I know how to be professional and put on my radio voice. I've done it for many, 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 many years before.
Yes.
And of course, yeah. So glitches in the Matrix is what we're going to talk about. You know what's funny is in the Matrix, we got some inside information too. I don't know if we can talk about this. I guess I can mention it just a little bit. I heard from a little bird that Keanu Reeves is actually working on a 4th Matrix movie. So I don't know if that's true or not, but we'll see.
That's a rumor.
I heard from a little bird.
At this point. It's just a rumor.
It's a rumor. It is not a rumor. But anyway, so my point of mentioning that is that do you remember during the Matrix movies, they were mentioning the black cat, and they said, "Hey, is it the same black cat, or did you see another black cat walk by?" And that's when something was changed within the Matrix.
The code was changed.
The code was changed. Mm-hmm. Well, you remember back in April when we got our 2 kitties, everybody started having these black kitties show up. Literally everybody at random would just have these black cats just showing up. And that went on for several months. And I said, hey, look, Bastet is sending her kittens down, her little protector kittens.
Yep.
So they can put their face in your coffee cups.
Exact. Or in your, in
put,
anything you're drinking or eating.
Their butts on the counter.
So
Yeah.
you
She was sending it for that purpose.
Poo-poo.
But no, it's the point that I'm getting at is we had this phenomenon of black cats going on. And now we're talking about glitches in the Matrix tonight. So
Yep.
who knows? Maybe it's related. I don't know.
They are little healer kitties, though. They sleep with us every night and love on us. Especially my shoulder, so it's really cute.
Yes.
All right.
Chris, did you hear the rumor that the Wachowski brothers stole the story of the Matrix from the black lady? I forget her name. Supposedly she wrote the plots to Terminator and the Matrix. I have heard that before, and I know exactly who you're talking about. I actually referenced her in a video that we did about the Divine Feminine a while back. However, after doing some research, this is what I found. That she filed the lawsuit, but never followed through with the lawsuit. She didn't even show up to court. She was never awarded, Sophia Stewart, she was never awarded any money, and there was never any acknowledgement that she had written those. I've never read her source material, and I don't even know if her source material exists in a published form, which, again, that would make it even more... the story even more convoluted. But upon doing some fact checking, it didn't add up, at least legally. Now, it probably could have been the case if she actually did write it, but I know she didn't follow through with the lawsuit. I was very disappointed to hear that, because I remember reading about that story and thinking to myself, wow, this is an example of how the little guy can go up against the Goliath, which is Hollywood, and win. But in actual fact, no, the lawsuit was dismissed without her even following through with it at all.
Right. If it's true, then you're going to follow through on something that big.
Yes and no. I mean, okay, so it can come down to several different things. So it could be money. Maybe she didn't have the money. She didn't have the know-how. She knew how to file the lawsuit, but she didn't have the know-how to answer I don't even know the civil legal process that much. There's a summary judgment, I think, that comes after the lawsuit is filed that they file afterwards. Then you have to file a reply to that summary judgment, and she may not have known how to do all of that.
Maybe.
So it's possible that she didn't follow through because of that. She could have been pressured to not follow through. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, really, Hollywood has so much money that what would it matter to just pay this person off and make her go away?
Right.
Especially if it was a legitimate situation of theft. But the story went like this, that there was a contest or something that the Wachowski brothers were like judges or something. And she had submitted her manuscript So I don't even know if the work was published, but then she's claiming that she submitted the manuscript, and that's how the plot lines got ripped off. However, well, not however, it's just kind of a completely different thought. I've spoken to record labels before in the past, like in my 20s when I really didn't understand the music industry, and the music industry was different than it is now, because now it's totally digital and it's mostly independent artists. And the big conglomerates of the music industry really aren't that big anymore.
Right.
As far as like record contracts and things like that. I mean, you go all the way back to the 70s, and you had, your talent scouts walking around hearing Elvis Presley playing his guitar on his porch and going, hey, that's a great sound. Let's go ahead and sign that guy. It doesn't work like that anymore. In the 90s, it was kind of transitioning from where that was to where it is now. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't understand the music industry, but I knew that I was running into a brick wall with my music because record companies would not accept my work.
Right.
And come to find out, the reason for that is because they don't accept anything unsolicited. And that includes movies, that includes scripts, that includes all kinds of stuff like that, music, because of situations like this. If they're working on something that is similar to what your script is, then they release it. At that point, you can say, hey, they ripped me off.
There's
I
another
remember
one.
I even came up with product ideas before, and I tried to pitch some companies about product ideas, and they said, no. And the way you go about it is you develop the product, put it out on market, then you go to the company and say, I want you to buy my product, which is an accessory to your product, or something like that. But you have to go through all that process of actually making it, marketing it, putting it out there, patenting it. I mean, theoretically, you don't really need a patent because once you put it out there, you have all those legal protections anyways, like copyright, trademark, patent. It's like, you're just like making it, you're solidifying it by registering it. But anyways, I'm getting kind of off the point here. The point is that, it's unlikely that they would accept a manuscript just sent out like that. But if it was part of a contest, then, who knows? I don't know.
Well, there was another guy. His name is Thomas Althouse. And Outhouse. I almost said Outhouse. Thomas Althouse. And he brought a lawsuit forward back in 2014, and a California federal judge threw it out, saying the plaintiff's alleged similarities are too general or unoriginal, and that there were no substantial similarities that existed between the blockbuster films and a screenplay that he wrote called The Immortals. So
yeah, Lamar said, hey, wait a minute, Sophia won the lawsuit. She did not.
No.
There's a lot of articles claiming she did, but when you actually look and actually try to find like the documentation, you find out now she actually didn't. And those articles are just, it's unfortunate. We live in a time of nonstop fake news. And, this was why I was real critical about the truth movement, because I saw so much stuff being propagated. And it's not like the people propagating it were propagating it because they were dishonest, but they didn't do fact checking. They didn't look beyond the veil, and they didn't go to actually see the source material, which is why I'm a big proponent of source material, because then you are not really getting your news from any kind of outlet, but rather you're just, understanding things for how they are. But yeah, no, it was unfortunate. Unless it's a Mandela effect. Very well could be a Mandela effect, a glitch in the matrix, that maybe in this timeline she won. But I remember reading article after article and thinking, wow, that's fantastic. And then actually coming across the source documentation to show that no, she didn't.
Right. And that, there are different Mandela effects that people haven't really talked about in the past that I'd like to talk about tonight. So new Mandela effects are interesting. Everybody's heard about the Berenstain Bears thing. Everybody's heard about the Luke, I'm your father. Pretty much everybody who knows about the Mandela effect knows about Curious George's tale, but not a whole lot of people realize that we were taught in schools, like at a very young age, 5, 6, 10 years old, that certain things about our geography were fact, and then now apparently it's completely different. So that's when I find it interesting, because we're talking not about stuff that is an artwork that companies can change their logos or stuff like that. But when we're talking about stuff about the geographical makeup of the planet that we're supposedly living on, that's when I kind of raise an eyebrow. So
interesting.
I'm going to get the cats out of here, and that way, because we're about to go on with him in a few minutes, so I will rejoin you in just a second.
Okay. Got a cool question here from Kristen. Off topic, if I really had a bad shroom trip that completely made me forget most of my memories pre-trip, do you think if I trip now, more trauma healed before then I can regain? You know, that's a tough question because I've never really had a bad trip. So, you know, there's so many different definitions of a bad trip. I would need more information to ask that. However, I'm reading the chat again. However, I can just go by what you gave me here. And the first thing I would ask is, what else were you introducing into the trip? Were there any pharmaceuticals? Was there anything like that going on? What was your mental state at the time of the trip as well? Because if you're in a really low frequency and you take something like that, you're just going to go into thought loops. And that very well could be a bad trip in and of itself. I've had plenty of those. I mean, if that's how you would describe a bad trip, I've had, you know, plenty of bad trips in my time, but they're not like bad, like, oh my God, I'm so scared. It's more like bad, like I'm really frustrated because I can't go any deeper. But, and again, if there were some kind of external things being introduced, like pharmaceuticals or something like that, and those aren't taken out of the equation, then you're probably going to encounter that again until you resolve that problem there. And the problem with pharmaceuticals, psychopharmaceuticals, is they change the chemical makeup of the brain. And so, you know, I was talking to a doctor and he was talking about Zoloft, and he's like, oh yeah, no, it's totally safe. It's, you know, it's totally safe, and this and that. You know, after about 5 months, you know, people notice a real difference, but then, you know, they have to wean off it. And I'm like, are you freaking insane, dude? Are you calling that safe? You're calling that safe, something that actually changes the chemical makeup of your brain?
Yeah. So
I would look at all of those stuff. I would look at all of that stuff, all of those stuff. I would look at all of that stuff first and foremost. But bugged out because a friend bugged out beforehand, so I started bugging out too.
It's contagious.
It's contagious, yeah.
It's when you're talking about something like that, fear can be contagious. I mean, even watching somebody yawn will make you yawn. Have you ever noticed that? If you see somebody yawning, you have it's like an instinct where you yawn too. The body can feel when other people are starting to freak out about something, and when you're in that space, that psychedelic space, it spreads pretty quickly. So watch out who you trip with, who you decide to journey with, because both of you need to have the mental fortitude to be able to ride things out in a decent way. So, yep, same with laughing. Somebody pointed out, same with laughing. If you see somebody laughing, it makes you want to laugh too.
People bug out sometimes. I don't know why they bug out. I mean, it's like, I never really bugged out on psychedelics, but I've seen people bug out. Mm-hmm. I guess it's control, you know?
Yeah.
It's control. Hey, I'm losing control. I don't know what's going on in my consciousness, you know, this and that. And yeah, I mean, it's not even, maybe you didn't even bug out in that traditional sense, but rather somebody else was acting a fool, you know? And you're just like, oh my God, I can't trip like this with all this freaking drama going on here. Uh-huh. Relax, calmness.
Yeah.
Just, the sage helps a lot in situations like that. But I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question well. I did so with the best way that I could with the information that I had.
Your ex-girlfriend liked to talk a lot. She was a talker. When you were trying to trip together or journey together.
Oh my God.
It was like this constant no.
Yeah, I'd start to go deep into the, and then and I'm like, whoa, okay, let me pay attention to what's going on here. That's another reason though I can't listen to music with English words. You know, stuff with Arabic words is fine. You know, even French or whatever. Sometimes we find some really cool techno tracks like that. But yeah, because even the English music brings me out of the experience when it comes in. There are a couple of songs though, like Beyond the Invisible by Enigma.
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the most of that song is na 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 na
Yeah.
na na. It is time
To pray with shades of light.
I think it's Break the Chains of Life.
Actually, I think it's Pray with
If
Shades
you
of Light.
follow, you will see. It's Break the Chains of Life. It is time to break the chains of life.
Did you look that up?
No. All right, Beyond the Invisible.
Oh, you're right. It is time to break the chains of life. If you follow, you will see what's beyond reality. I mean, I guess those cats really don't want to be out there.
Is that them bouncing
That's
around?
them hitting the door.
Oh, man. So for those of you just joining us, we're just kind of waiting right now for Ron to bring us on here with Clyde Lewis here in a little bit. I don't know if they're going to do it right at the top of the hour or if it's going to be more towards the 15-minute mark or whatever. I don't know. We just kind of play everything by ear right now. And I don't want to just like blow my whole load right now and talk about everything we were going to talk about. You know?
Did you just say blow my own? Yeah. Yeah, you kind of want to build up to the climax.
Build
there.
it up nice and slowly, and yeah,
leave the audience on the edge of their seat.
On the edge, Just keep them right there, right on the edge. Prolong that edge for a long time. Vibe with me. I think that's Steph. Okay. If it is Steph, what is up, Steph? Steph was there with us in Egypt. Not in Egypt, but she was with us, on the live streams and everything like that.
Yeah,
and,
I remember.
Yeah.
Amanda Flores said, LOL, honor the seed. Aleister Crowley had a quote one time where he said that somebody told him that semen is God, and he's like, nah, I disagree. Anyways. So it's normal to have kind of like an existential crisis.
Look, somebody said, Chris, you were in my dream because I know it was you because you were acting contrarian. Am I a contrarian?
Yeah,
I think
you
I
are.
might be a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not that I want to be a contrarian to everything. I mean, it's just that this is the way I've trained my brain to do this. It didn't always do this. When I was a truther, it just automatically was like, oh yeah, no, that sounds good. Okay, let's go with that. Even in the consciousness stuff, it's like, oh yeah, no, that resonates. Okay, let's get my brain. I had to train my brain to go, all right, let's look at this from the other side of the coin, so we get a 360-degree perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think I found myself to be a lot more balanced now, but it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, to read the source material and everything like that.
Yeah, it's important to go back, especially when you're talking about people like Helena Blavatsky, for instance. She had some really amazing work that she did, but a lot of people see the creepy picture of her and they think, oh, she's a witch, or, she's a Satanist. She was never a Satanist.
She's a Satanist, darling. A Satanist. We need to get Chris Everard back on. Yeah.
He had a good post on Facebook today where he was talking about fluoride and the fact that fluoride, or a version of fluoride, is in 1 in 5 pharmaceutical drugs out there.
Oh, nice. Heather is here. She said it's her first time here. Welcome, Heather.
Welcome.
This isn't a standard show, so a lot more times. I don't know. I hope I'm not doing that on the show tonight. Most of the time, we're much more grounded and focused because we actually have something to talk about, which we do tonight, but we're going to be joining Clyde Lewis here in a little bit. So, that's why we're just kind of kicking back and just kind of hanging out with everybody. All right. We will call you in a few.
Okay.
Ready when you are. So, I guess I should pull up a list of Mandela effects or something, huh?
In the thing I sent you with all the notes, there are lots of links in there.
Okay.
That talk about Mandela.
I don't know where Clyde wants to take it, so we'll see. I just kind of let Clyde lead the way. Yeah,
me too. He knows what he's doing.
He's been doing a lot longer than we have.
Mm-hmm.
I actually learned a lot from Clyde, listening to him, and also from George Norrie. And when we first started, you heard a lot of George Norrie's mannerisms and Clyde's mannerisms come out in me. Alex Jones, too. I used to say this all the time. All right, I'd go off on something. All right, but I'm digressing.
But I digress, ladies and gentlemen.
That's totally Alex Jones. I used to, what else would I say? Absolutely. I picked that up from George Norrie. But I broke myself of all of that.
Fascinating.
Fascinating. I know what that means now. When George says that, what it means I have not paid attention to anything you have said.
Word you said in the
but
last
I'm just
2
saying
minutes.
it's fascinating because fascinating is a safe thing to say. Because if I don't agree with it, then I'm not agreeing with it. And if I do agree with it, then anyways,
All right,
here we go.
Hey guys.
Hey, how are you, Clyde?
Good. Did you get a chance to read the article?
We did, yes.
What do you think?
It is. It's there's so many strange things going on. I don't even know how to describe it, but I'm looking forward to getting into that tonight.
Okay, we'll get you both on. Remember, we break on the 7s. So it'll be 17, 27, 47, and 57. So you'll hear the music and hopefully, get ready to move out because it may cancel out. It sounds a little weird, but stay with us. We'll be right with you. Stand by, okay?
Awesome.
All right, stand by.
I didn't read the article.
I didn't have time.
I hope I played it off well enough.
Yeah, you did.
I'm going to read it right now real quick, though. Let's see. Why reality is not a video game and why it matters. Is that it? That's not it.
No.
Okay.
It's at the very bottom of what I just sent you twice.
Okay, good. I've got the Skype on mute there.
Okay, good.
All right, let's go over this real quick. Life's a glitch. It's a well-kept secret, but we know the answer to life, the universe, and everything. For those who are fans of Douglas Adams, you may think the number is 42. The truth is not 42. It's 137. You know what 42 is? Real quick, side note. 42 is the asterisk sign in ANSI code, which translates to a variable, which means it's a wildcard variable, whatever you want it to be. So that's why the answer is 42, whatever you want it to be. The absolute number determines how stars burn, how chemistry happens, and even whether atoms exist at all. The brilliant physicist Richard Feynman said that 137 is a number that all theoretical physicists of worth should worry about. He called it one of the greatest damn mysteries of physics, a magic number that comes to us with no understanding by men. That magic number, called the fine structure constant, is a fundamental constant. It is denoted by the Greek letter alpha. What's special about alpha is that it's regarded as the best example of pure number, one that does not need units. It actually combines three of nature's fundamental constants: the speed of light, the electrical charge carried by one electron, and the Planck's constant. Why don't you pick it up from there?
In the final episode of Netflix's popular series Stranger Things, the fate of not just the characters but the entire world hangs on a character's ability to remember Planck's constant. Named for the German physicist Max Planck, Planck's constant describes the behavior of particles and waves, including the particle of light, the photon. In the Stranger Things episode, Planck's constant is the code to open a safe that contains keys that will close the gate to the upside. This indicates that we very well could be living in an unstable dimension, or at least a simulation. The question is, how is this at all possible? The theory is that we live in a simulation is not at all rare. In an influential paper that laid out the theory, the Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom showed that at least one of three possibilities is true. Number one, all human-like civilizations in the universe go extinct before they develop the technological capability to create simulated realities. Number two, if any civilizations do reach this phase of technological maturity, none of them will bother to run simulations. Or three, advanced civilizations would have the ability to create many, many simulations, and that means there are far more simulated worlds than non-simulated ones. We can't know for sure which of these is the case. Bostrom concludes, but they're all possible, and the third option might even be the most probable outcome. It's a difficult argument to wrap your head around, but it makes a certain amount of sense.
Thank you.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. Lately, I've been receiving a lot of emails regarding numbers, equations, how there are constants, how there are numbers that always seem to pop up. And like, I always say that I like to fall into a lot of dime store numerology. Try and make heads or tails of numerology. I don't know if there's a science to it. I don't know if there's any equation to it, but I remember there was a movie called Pi that I saw where this guy named Max, who's in the film, was obsessed with the number 216. And the number 216, according to the Jewish clerics, the guys that they studied Kabbalah, said 216 is the number of God. And that if they were to find other equations, they'd have numbers and variables from it, like 666 and other numbers, 144,000. All the numbers that are in the Bible have a lot of significance. And that, there's always seems to be truth in numbers, truth in equations, truth in, trying to figure out how these numbers affect our existence, how they affect our reality. There's a physicist named Richard Feynman who said that the number 137 is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. It was Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He said it was number 42. Okay. People like Robert Anton Wilson will tell you it's 23. Masons will tell you it's 33 or 32 or whatever. I don't know. But see, that's the thing. Numbers and their places in theoretical physics are important to the scientist and to the astrophysicist and to the quantum physicist. And Richard Feynman, who was a brilliant physicist, had said that all theoretical physicists should think about the number 137. I don't know why. He says it's a magic number. It's the fine structure constant. It's a fundamental constant. He says it's denoted by the Greek letter alpha. Alpha is the beginning. In between is the experience, the fate, the consequence, and then omega, the end. And what's so special about alpha is it's regarded as the best example of a pure number, one that doesn't need units, and it actually combines three of nature's fundamental constants, which are the speed of light, the electric charge carried by one electron, and the Planck's constant. Now, for those of you that are Stranger Things fans, you know that Planck's constant is a number that Dustin needed to save the world. And he had to get it from his little girlfriend, Susie, and she wouldn't give it to him unless he sang a Never-Ending Story song. So after they do this musical interlude, it's all cutesy and fun and really fit for some reason, Susie reels off Planck's constant. She says it's 6.6260704. Dustin then gives the information to Sheriff Hopper. Sheriff Hopper uses the number to open up a safe, which gives us the keys to close the gate of the upside down of the parallel universe. Of course, it's all about parallel universes, and it's important for our never-ending existence to keep everything in line. Of course, we've heard about paradoxes. We've heard about all these other things. We've heard of different branches. We've talked about quantum physics with a lot of quantum scientists on this program. But see, scientists have said that they watched Stranger Things, and they said, well, guess what, guys? You gave Planck's constant for the year 2014, not 1985, in the time where this is supposed to take place. And someone said, well, it's a glitch. It's a glitch in the script. No, it's a glitch in the matrix. It's a glitch in the upside down. It's to basically leave a hole open so they can, I'm sure, do some manipulation with the constants and say, okay, we have a way to get into the upside down and make things change. We go to other universes and make this universe change. It's all about time. It's all about branches of time. It's whether or not time is linear or simultaneous. Scientists are always using numbers and equations, and they always say, well, if there's one number that is off, or if there is some miscalculation, we may see or experience a glitch in the matrix, a paradox that could destroy our very existence. Or we could have something happen that's very traumatic, And we wouldn't know it because we get thrust into another dimension and we're just like all going, well, what's going on around us? Well, the earth is burping. The earth is having earthquakes. We're having volcanoes. The magnetic field is fluctuating and getting weaker. We're seeing the magnetic north drop all the way down to Greenwich time, the prime meridian, which is 0. I mean, it's interesting. It's going to 0, right? 0 time, where everything basically stops. And so we did the show with Nick Hinton a few weeks ago, talking about how the end of the world may have happened on July of 2012 when CERN found the Higgs boson. And of course, the questioning of the stability of Higgs boson was brought up by Stephen Hawking before he died, saying, look, if we have an unstable Higgs boson and they don't know how to keep it under control, we can see some very strange things happen to the planet. Earthquakes in various places, volcanoes exploding everywhere, people feeling out of sorts, strange glitches in the matrix. And so someone had turned me onto this Reddit thread where people were just discovering that perhaps they're living in a simulated reality and that the things they've taken for granted in their so-called reality have somehow glitched. Now, I don't want to be misunderstood here. This isn't about time travel. This is about the reality we're in now somehow changing because of some traumatic event that's happened that we all experienced in the twinkling of an eye, like it says in the Bible, the twinkling of an eye idea. And so we have these experiences and we don't know what to say about them because they seem so foreign to us. I mean, something happened to me just the other day. I had this glitch that was for me, it was just weird. Okay. I woke up, I had dry mouth. I use a CPAP machine, so my mouth was very dry when I woke up. And so I needed to go downstairs to the refrigerator to find some water. I usually keep a bottle of water by the bed, but I needed a cold bottle of water to drink. So I came downstairs, got right out of bed, came downstairs. And I remember that Janine had said, well, I'm going to go to the doctor, honey. So, I'll let you sleep. So I slept, woke up, went downstairs. And, I noticed that she wasn't in the bedroom when I left. So obviously I thought she wasn't home. So I went downstairs through the front room to the kitchen. I opened the fridge. There was no water. Now, I had bought water. I swear I bought water. We brought water to the house or something was going on. I don't know. So I darted back towards the stairs, and sitting at her desk was my wife. And she said, well, don't say hi. I said, what are you talking about? I didn't even see you there. I didn't even see her at the desk. And I distinctly remember buying water to put in the fridge with no water, and she wasn't there. I thought she was going to go to the doctor. I was completely confused. So she told me that she saw me pass her by, and she said I acted as if I didn't see her. I didn't see her. I didn't. I asked where the water was. She said I didn't buy any water. I didn't have any water in the house. So I walked upstairs. I got ready for work and just kept quiet about what happened. I was not on any drugs. I was not sleepy. It was just so weird. And so I couldn't explain it. I had a hard time explaining that I didn't see her, but I just didn't see her. And she was at her computer writing. She writes her podcast. She has a podcast on the Fringe FM. It's called Real Talk with J.D. Lewis, and it's on Wednesdays from 7 to 9. She writes her podcasts, and she's also writing an article for Paranoia magazine about the Maury Island affair and her experience in Longview, Kelso, where she lived. We went up for the Bigfoot Festival. But the thing is that I experienced this glitch, and this Reddit log or blog or whatever it was all about people who were having these terrifying or chilling experiences where they feel a glitch in the matrix. And, I use the matrix because that's the only thing that I think people can relate to, where they feel like that they're not in reality, or they have a slip up in reality, or they have something where they feel like that we live in a simulation. Okay. And so there's this blog where people are writing that they had some sort of a strange experience. And so here's the first one. I read this last hour, but I'll read this first one that really had me thinking. Quote, I was on a vacation in Florida visiting a friend. We were walking on the beach on a perfectly sunny day when everything went black for a second. I think it was weird, but explained it away thinking that my eyes were playing tricks on me until he looked at me and said, did everything just go black for a second? Here's another one. About 2 years ago, I went to pick up my husband from the ferry after work. My husband got into the car, and as I was driving very slowly out of the car park, we both noticed two people standing a few feet in front of our car. It looked as though they were strangers, older-looking professionals, both walking to their separate cars in different areas of the car park. The man was reaching into his side bag, and the lady was further ahead than the man with her head turned to the right. I know these exact positions because They were completely frozen in place. They weren't moving. They were motionless. They were static. My husband and I sat there watching the frozen strangers, not saying anything to each other. And then all of a sudden, it was like someone pressed play, and the two strangers continued on as though nothing had happened. And my husband and I promised each other that we would never forget how weird this experience was. I can't remember exactly how long they stayed frozen like that, but I was realizing it was long enough to freak us both out. So, I mean, these are people, this is a very popular blog on Reddit from what I understand. And people are sharing their experiences about how they feel as though reality is somehow glitched for them. As being peculiar, that many people are having these experiences, and they have no place to talk about them except in a forum on Reddit. Well, I'm opening the forum tonight to talk about these experiences, and I'm going to invite Chris and Cherie Gio on the program. They're veteran broadcasters and hosts of Beyond the Veil, which airs on TFR Live, and they're going to talk about their first glitch in the Matrix, that happened in 2009. And ever since then, they've embarked on a journey to understand the true nature of reality. They've gone to Egypt. They performed ancient shamanic rituals at various temples within the sarcophagus of the Great Pyramid of Giza. They have their journeys detailed on YouTube. They're well known, and we're glad to have them with us tonight. We're going to bring them on after this break. Chris and Cherie Gio, this is going to be an amazing time to talk with them about glitches in the Matrix and whether or not we're living in some strange reality that is somehow glitched. And here we are now living in a time where we're wondering about our past. We're not clear about the future, and the present doesn't seem so exciting either. 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
So I've got the out channel muted going to Clyde, so no, this isn't sending out. But wow, you know, that article, I wish I would have read it. I just didn't know about it. I was running around doing all kinds of stuff. I didn't know about it.
I thought it was just an announcement.
That article is amazing. And what Clyde experienced is very similar to what you experienced just a
few weeks
ago that we talked about on the show.
Yeah.
So it's chilling to see the correlation there. And then also, I don't know, he touched upon so many different things. Yeah. I can expand upon the pi thing. You know, the Torah, the way it's built is that every letter represents a number. And then every number makes up a word. And you put two words together. Like mother, I think, comes out to 2, and father comes out to 41 or something like that. And then you combine the two, and then child comes out to 44. You know, that's the way that it's all built up. So you take these words, combine them together. Mathematically, they also make sense. How can that be if this is anything less than a computer code that we're looking at here? And as we saw in Egypt, remember, everything is read from right to left, right to left. All the ancient code that we were looking at was coming up right to left. When I was in the Temple of Isis and she was appearing there, and all of the instructions were there to unlock the locked part of my consciousness, it was all appearing right to left, right to left. So I'm super excited to get into this.
Yeah, me too.
yeah, because we've got so much to talk about. And of course, the glitches within the Matrix that we've been experiencing.
Right.
So, yeah.
He said I should take over. I'm like, no, it needs to be both of us because we've both had some incredible experiences regarding this, and we both have a lot to add to the conversation. So I think we should just play it by ear because it's gonna turn out great no matter what.
I think so. Your microphone sounds a little low.
All right, testing.
I don't know. It's hitting -15 here. I don't know why.
Testing.
I don't know. Testing. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. Okay. You know, for several months, I couldn't see the levels on this device right here. I don't know why. I got the bright idea. Why don't I move the desks over a few inches? And I did.
Never occurred to you.
And now I can see the levels. I can see when something's clipping.
Yay.
Where before I couldn't. So, yeah. For those of you just joining us, we're on with Clyde Lewis, and he's taking a break right now, so we're just waiting for him
to use...
I hear intro music again. Hey, sweetie. Hurry up.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. Glitches in the Matrix, yes. Many of us have had that experience. Chris and Cherie Gio, my guest tonight on Ground Zero, first had their glitch in the Matrix in 2009. We'll bring them on the show to talk about it. Hey, Chris and Cherie, you there?
Hey, Clyde, thank you very much for having us on. Cherie stepped out real quick, but she'll be right back. But let me say that intro was amazing, and what happened to you sounds very similar to what happened to us just a few weeks ago. We were talking about this on the show just recently, that Cherie walks downstairs, and she's calling for me. I'm sitting on the couch. I don't see her walk downstairs at all. She comes back downstairs, according to her, 3 different times, comes downstairs and says, I've been looking for you. I thought you left. Where did you go? And I said, I've been sitting here on the couch watching TV here. Did you not see me on the couch? She said, no, I've been yelling at you. I looked directly at the couch. It was almost as if time had shifted, or the time-space had shifted, and we were in 2 parallel dimensions simultaneously.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that this happened, because usually, but then I wonder, well, I assumed that Janine wasn't home, and that's why I went downstairs, because I was thinking I'd just start downstairs, come back upstairs. In fact, usually, I put on either a robe or I put on some pajamas or something when I go downstairs if she's in the house or something, just because I just don't want to walk around, in my underwear. It's kind of not something I want to do. So I darted downstairs without putting a robe or anything on, because I thought she was gone. And then I walk in and look for water. There's no water in the fridge. I look back and there she is. Well, don't say hi, she says to me. I'm standing there going, what are you doing here? And she said, I've been here the whole time. You walked by and you didn't even see me. And I said, no, I didn't see you. I didn't see you at all. So she saw me, but I didn't see her. And I don't know how that happened, because she's hard to miss. I mean, she's Janine. You can't miss her. So I didn't know what was going on, and I walked away a little confused. I really was confused, because when I left, it was just weird. It was as if I just felt really bad that I didn't see her. It made me question my sanity.
Well, it makes me wonder, because going back all the way to 2009, like you said in the intro, when Cherie and I first met, we were filling up our water bottles at this reverse osmosis facility that was right around the corner from our house. We take those 5-gallon bottles. We had just went about 2 weeks prior to that. Mm-hmm. We show up there. Everything's gone. There's no building. There's nothing there.
Even the pipes that were there that would refill the bottles were just completely gone, as if they never were there. And they were embedded into the wall before. And now it was as if they never existed.
Yeah, and we asked people around there, hey, what happened to this facility? Did they shut down? That building's been empty for quite some time there. Mm-hmm. So it was very strange. We noticed this. We had several guests on the show, and we would ask them, have you heard about this phenomenon, timeline shifting, things like that? And some of them would say, yeah, I've heard of this, or I've experienced this, and some no. Then, of course, the Mandela effect was coined about 4 or 5 years later.
Right.
And then everybody started to become aware of all these little changes. For people that aren't familiar, the Mandela effect, Snow White in our timeline used to say mirror, mirror on the wall, as opposed to I'm getting a loop back from you. I'm not sure if that's on my end. Okay. Snow White used to say mirror, mirror on the wall. Now she says magic mirror on the wall. Many others that I'm sure you've done many shows about Mandela effects about. But people are recognizing these changes, and I'm wondering, have these changes always taken place? But what's changed is our awareness of our environment around us, especially with technology, especially with access to be able to communicate with so many people around and share our experiences, to where we're waking up to these changes within this glitchy matrix that we've always been in. Or is something going wrong with the matrix and we're just noticing it more and more and more, which consequently is causing us to wake up to these ideas more and more, and realizing that, like Elon Musk said, there's 1 in a billion chance that we're not living in a simulation if the universe is as old as they say it is.
Right. But the question is whether or not this is the mother universe, is question on whether or not, Neil deGrasse Tyson, there's a 50-50 chance. And see, I'm beginning to wonder about quantum cosmology, because I've had an interest in this And I've talked to a lot of people, from Stephen Hawking to others, Brian Greene, string theory, all this. And so I'm beginning to wonder about quantum cosmology and whether or not it has an expression for action, because you look at actions that are interpreted as time dependent, and then you look at Planck's constant and you're wondering, is it variable? Heisenberg, the uncertainty principle, is this a mere constant of proportionality? I mean, these are all laws of physics, but are our laws of physics capable of bending, or are they not? Are they going against all the classical Newtonian physics that we've learned all along? And it has nothing to do, like I said, it has nothing to do with time travel. It has everything to do with the constants, the invariable constants, the constants of matter, what Feynman called the 1/137, what Planck's constant is. These are all things that basically create our realities. And if they are not, if they don't have any expression for action, or if they are time dependent, or they have variables, then somehow, we've calculated things not giving into the idea of glitches or problems. 877-733-1011. Chris and Cherie Gio with us tonight on Ground Zero. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.
The dreaded Clear Channel clock.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I used to hate that. We'd upload our shows to YouTube, and people would complain, why are there so many breaks? Well, we're on the hard clock here.
Yeah.
The break clock.
You got to follow it.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention the hotel thing.
I was going to get to that. Yeah. But, oh man, my mind is going in so many different directions.
Yeah,
like I said,
here.
I want to talk about the numerology and the Torah, and that we're looking at a script. And the thing that I want to bring up with him when we come back is, and I want you, maybe you should bring it up, but I want you to jump in. What I want to bring up is the news and how we see these repeating numbers within the news cycles. 33 victims, 13 victims, 33 whatever. We always see that number 33 repeating over and over and over again. I was just watching the impeachment, and they brought up the number 33 again. And I was like, really? Even during this 33, there's always 33 witnesses. There's 33 documents. There's 33 this, 33 that. Because it's a computer, and it's a script, and it's running a script, and it's spitting out these different types of variables.
Yeah, definitely. And people could say, well, that has more to do with a grand nefarious plan that, people that essentially control the world, it's like their way of speaking to each other or invoking a certain reaction from the public.
That's a good point.
How they use numerology, 33 victims, 13 dead.
Yes, except for you can trace this number 33 going all the way back to prehistoric time.
Well, yeah, and even Jesus died at age 33.
Yeah, it's all scripted. So the Illuminati either have this huge control over going all the way back to the beginning of history.
Right.
Or it's a computer that we've been watching the entire time. Which, I mean, goes into some even deeper levels here that we probably won't get into with Clyde. But, the whole idea of history in and of itself. I mean, we're told that the Earth is 4.6 billion years old. We're told that humanity is, that's in dispute, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 years old. Some would say older than that. But we're told all of this. But how do we know that all that existed? When you're playing a video game, all the historical artifacts that you find within that video game didn't actually come from the history of that video game.
Right.
It was implanted there to make the video game feel more real.
Right, exactly.
So this brings into question the entire nature of reality in and of itself.
Yeah, and I like where he's going with it as far as the physics of reality and why things are not as they have been appearing to the scientific community for the last 50 to 100 years of physics, modern physics as we know it. It's all being turned on its head now because the rules of the game are changing. And when you see planes frozen in midair in Moscow, or just weird glitches like that, that's not just having these strange experiences because your mind can do crazy things sometimes. But when you actually see it with your eyes, that's when you know it's not just your mind playing tricks on you.
Well, people in the chat are pointing out that 33
wound dimensions. How do we distinguish between illusion and reality?
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. I was going to say you're living in a different universe. At least I felt that way. It was really upsetting when that happened to me the other day. And I was thinking to myself, somebody just said something that's really funny. He says, I wish I had a radio show where I could explain to my wife that I didn't see her because there was a glitch in the universe. It probably would have saved his marriage. That's kind of funny. No, I mean, it was really upsetting because I always feel like that, I want to be attentive in my relationship. But there are other things that have happened to me in the past that I thought would indicate, or at least, and a lot of people have had this experience where we may, or we very well could be living in an unstable dimension, or at least a simulation. The question is, how's it all possible? A lot of people have a hard time dealing with this, and they get angry about it because they're thinking, well, God has a plan and blah, 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 blah. But see, the theory that we live in a simulation is not all that rare. I mean, if you want to read what Nick Bostrom has to say, he was from Oxford, he says this, that at least one of three possibilities are true about our existence. One, all human-like civilizations in the universe go extinct before they develop the technological capacity to create simulated realities. Two, if any civilizations do reach this phase of technological maturity, none of them will bother to run simulations. Or three, advanced civilizations would have the ability to create many, many simulations, and that means there are far more simulated worlds than non-simulated worlds. So we can't know for sure which of these is the case, but they're all possible. And the third option might even be the most probable outcome because, well, it's a difficult argument to wrap your head around, but it makes a certain amount of sense when you start looking around you and realizing the world is a strange place. Chris Gio and Cherie Gio with us tonight on Ground Zero. The Lifting the Veil, they are amazing. We've talked about this before. They've had experiences where they've had glitches in the Matrix. So you know what Bostrom says? We talked about Planck's constant. We've talked about constant numbers, and we talked about how maybe miscalculations can lead to some sort of glitch in the Matrix. We're seeing magnetic fields that are weakening. We're beginning to understand now that without a magnetic field, without anything to guide us, we're pretty much on our own, and we're seeing that perhaps the planet is going through some dimensional upheaval. How do we make heads or tails of this? What are some indications in your mind, Chris or Cherie, that this is happening?
Well, let me ask you this real quick, Clyde, because I was thinking about this before the break. Have you noticed, because you cover the news all the time, that there seems to be repeating numbers within the news? 13 and 33. 33 victims, 13 this, 13 that, 33 this. But you can trace these numbers going all the way back to even the time of Jesus. He was crucified at the age of 33, for example. So we're left with one of two things to ponder. Either A, the Illuminati has control of our past, present, and future, and they implant the number 33, which is the common theory that that's the way they communicate. Or are we watching a computer program play itself out? So we're watching variables being dumped into the system, which is why we keep on getting these repeating numbers over and over again. What do you think about that?
Well, you know about the 33rd parallel, what they call the 33. It's kind of like the idea that all disclosure happens in 33s, or there's a lot of 33 type. They call it the King Kill 33. They call it, the 33rd parallel. All kinds of strange events have happened. I mean, you can look. The atom bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. That was close to 3330 east longitude and 3330 north latitude. Nagasaki, 3330 north. White Sands testing range in New Mexico was 33. Also, 33. Roswell happened in 1947 on the 33rd parallel. John F. Kennedy was gunned down in Texas in the 33rd parallel. Mm-hmm. Sirhan Sirhan was killed. Sirhan Sirhan killed Robert F. Kennedy near the 33rd parallel. Waco happened on the 33rd parallel. David Koresh died at what age?
33.
Space Shuttle broke up over to the 33rd parallel. Heaven's Gate committed suicide in San Diego, the 33rd north latitude. Rancho Santa Fe. That happened there. The Phoenix Lights, 33.24, 33.34 north latitude. So, you look at this and you say to yourself, either this is a big psyop or there's some sort of strange numerological or toponymy that is sacred with these numbers. I mean, there's also the 23. Number 23 is also a number that comes up always, which is the break apart number in the I Ching. You look at, like you said, the number 13 is another number that comes up a lot. And of course, I was talking earlier about the numbers that were like the perfect constant numbers, like 1137 and other numbers. We were talking about Planck's constant, which is another number that certainly, they used it in Stranger Things as a code to open up to close the gate on the Upside Down. It was 6.626070004. So there are magical numbers, or there's numbers that they crunch, and because everything about the planet is all mathematical. Everything is about numbers and integers and sacred numbers and sacred geometry. So if something happens to fall short, if a number is crunched, or at least a calculation there's always room for error, then we see glitches happen. And this is why these numbers always seem to be constant, because we have these constants. But there seems to be something that sticks out. And once you see the oddity in the pattern, that's when you need to start planning on seeing something that may go down that would be bizarre or paranormal.
Yes. You had mentioned the Torah earlier, and in that movie Pi, they talked about how the different letters represent a number. Those numbers make up a word, like mother, for example. I think it's the number 2. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's the number 2 for this example. Father's 40, so child comes out to 42. And it's all structured just like that. How can this be anything but a code that we're looking at? I know on a previous show we had mentioned Professor Sylvester Gates. I don't know if you had a chance to look into his work, but he's a string theorist, and he found a self-correcting computer code within string theory itself. Not just any computer code, but he found a computer code written by a guy named Claude Shannon, who is said to be the father of robotics from the 1940s. Now, how is it that we're finding computer code, a specific computer code on top of that, in string theory itself?
Well, I mean, the components, we could look at the Bible, for example, okay? And you can see that components of all these theories we're talking about are there. I mean, you look at some of the books in the Bible, for example. You look at the book of Proverbs. You look at what? You look at Ecclesiastes. 222 verses, the same number of verses in the Bible, which include the word wisdom. Interesting, right? Mm-hmm. You look at gematria values of Ecclesiastes, which, of course, is 216. Again, the number 216. Now, remember in pi, the number 216 was equated with the value of God. In mathematics, the number 216 is a self-cubic number, and it's 2 cubes. And when you look at Plato's number, you take the rulers, and you take the measurements, and you take all the numbers, and the world is a complete number cubed. 216. The first smallest cube is the sum of 3 cubes, and that's 216. So if you look at the Bible, you see that the number 666, given Plato's Republic, written 400 years before the Revelation of St. John, 216 was originally intended to be the number of man, but they changed it to 666. Now why? Or 616, which is a hybrid between the two. So the number of the human creature, according to Plato, was 666. Revelation was 666 for the number of man. 216, a human number, can be appreciated when the following facts are put together, like in pi, where they were talking about that being the number of God. The closest way to get to God is through man. It was just a strange way of calculating the numbers and putting the numbers together, which, I don't know how this all plays together, but if there's ever a glitch or a change in those numbers, we'll start seeing some changes as well with regard to prophecy, with regard to the future, and how our past measures up. And you brought up the Mandela effect in that process, saying, why is it now we look back and we see these changes? The changes are happening because the numbers have somehow changed.
I completely agree. I think that what's happening here is lines of code are acting themselves out every day, 24 hours a day, all around us, and it's slight variations in this code that's causing these effects. We've got video of a plane frozen in midair and somebody's driving by. If that's something that's different than just somebody experiencing something, because your mind is an incredible machine that is able to calculate so much, but it is going to glitch out every once in a while in your mind. However, when you have something that you can see with your own two eyes, that you can record on video and other people see it too, experience it too, that's whenever you have something that is definitely going on with the reality around you. And when we look at these Mandela effects, it wouldn't make sense for something like the Mandela effect to even exist unless you're looking at a simulation of computer codes that are all, flying around you all the time. And then every once in a while, a code changes. Something very small changes. Now, if you were like me and you were taught geography when you were 10, 11 years old, you would know that the longest river in the United States was what? The Mississippi River. Not so now. Apparently, now it's the Missouri River. And that was something I remember writing down as a kid, MISSISSIPPI, and they would tell you, okay, well, the longer name is the longer river. It's not the case anymore. How is that possible unless something about the code of our geography, our geology, actually changed?
Well, you said something really chilling earlier, Clyde, that kind of gave me a revelation. You said that no civilization has created a simulation itself. And that could be a fail-safe for the simulation. When the people in the simulation start to wake up, the simulation has to be shut down or reset.
Because it would create a paradox.
We have created a simulation, though. I don't know if you've ever put on a VR headset. We're still at the baby stages of this, but I was playing a game called Walk the Plank where you're on, 50-story buildings. And my body felt like it was about to fall off. I was getting that feeling like I was on top of a building, even though I'm just standing still in a room with a headset on me. So we're very, very close to creating something like that. And that could be an indication that we do have an apocalyptic type of event coming up, which shuts down the matrix in and of itself.
I would say yes, because when you look at the exchanges of information, now you look at life itself, okay? And if you try to find the source code for life, we are caught in this endless exchange of information. You have cells on the body and everywhere else humming along without the foggiest clue of how the other systems work. It's the brain that somehow comes together and bring this all together. But if the brain finds the electrical signals and they're processed in we got so much we have to take in. We would see general intelligence somehow flaw. And we'd have collective memory recall that could fail us. And that's what Mandela effects are. We see other collective failures, such as perhaps something shutting down without our control. These are things that, you can only explain like this until someone comes along with the quantum theory to make it happen. 877-733-1011. Chris Gio and Cherie Gio with us tonight, talking about glitches in the Matrix. Life's a glitch, and then you die. We'll be back.
I love that. Life's a glitch. I don't know why in the 4 years we've been talking about this, I never thought of that phrase. Well done, Ron Patton, for that. Yeah, life's a glitch. I remember this rap song that said, I'm muted, going out to Clyde. I remember this rap song, life's a bitch, but you thought it was a game. So I'm thinking, life's a glitch, but you thought it was a game. This is a great show.
It is.
Yeah. It's very thought provoking. Clyde is very tapped in.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. I've always loved him. He
came on. Remember, he came on. He was one of our first guests.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he was. This article says we hearken back to the idea that the world might have ended in July of 2012 when the Higgs boson was discovered. What if that's what's been happening with these Mandela effects? The Mandela effect is a symptom of something changing that would have inevitably led to the destruction of the simulation. And so it's a way for whatever artificial intelligence is running it to avert disaster all around by changing tiny things that will have little to no impact on people's lives or the integrity of the matrix itself.
Well, if it's a multi spatial simulation in the sense that there are multiple simulations running
At
on
the
top
same
of one
time.
another.
Yeah.
They could be just one
Stacking them.
shutting down, stacking on top of each other until we get to that final one. It's almost like loops closing in, and it's closing in, constricting. That's it. It's like a constricting force, closing and closing and closing until we get to that point of singularity, and then completely smashed.
Well, and then that brings
to reset and reboot the matrix.
That brings up the,
So I feel sorry for all you NPCs out there, but we're gonna get the hell out of here.
Yeah, we're getting out of here. That brings up a new age term.
I don't think NPCs are listening to
of
this
the
stuff.
singularity. What is the singularity? People have been throwing around the word singularity all over the place, but what if it means exactly what you just explained? That all the simulations are canceling each other out and conglomerating into one. Well, maybe that is the singularity.
Yeah.
So maybe. I just know I'm not a mathematician, so I can't really talk physics or mathematics on the same level as you and Clyde, but...
Well, I'm hoping, and I don't know if it would be a good place to take it, but maybe we can pull in some astrology into this equation, because that's...
Astrology is the music of the spheres, when music is just frequencies and code.
Everything is frequency.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Maybe we can bring that up. I mean, that in and of itself convinces me. Well, it doesn't convince me on its own, but, along with everything else.
It's the linchpin.
I mean, astrology works. There's no doubt about it. You just have to know how to read the stars. But if you know how to read the stars like you know how to read the stars, you can see very clearly that it works.
Right.
So how is it that it works if these stars are millions of miles away? And I think the stars, and I've suspected this from when I was a child, that they're sending different program changes into the matrix itself.
Oh, maybe that,
we're watching, it's like a clock or a dial that we're watching turn. And as we're watching the dial turn, different things are changing within the matrix. It's like you're watching your computer boot up. When one file boots up, another line boots up another line, you know what your computer's going to do next by understanding what lines of code are being run.
Right. Maybe we can kind of segue into that by saying, where are these codes coming from? If reality is made of codes, overall, where do the codes come from? They come from the sun. They come from Mars. They come from Venus. They come from Jupiter. All these planets, quote unquote planets, are really just energy forces coming in, distributing codes.
Everything that we call the Matrix, okay, and this is, I'm saying, this is what we call it now because of the fictional story of Neo and Morpheus and Trinity. But everything we talk about here, the Matrix itself, it describes the behavior of particles and waves. And everything dealing with time and space and reality is about light. It's about photons. When you look at fine structured constants, fundamental constants, when you look at Planck's constant, all of these are numbers. Okay, they're magical numbers that scientists and quantum physicists all lean on to describe why we have reality. But there has to be, at least in my opinion, a time where the numbers sometimes fall short. And when they do, we start seeing glitches in the matrix. Chris Gio and Cherie Gio are with us to talk about this tonight. And I was wondering if you guys have any ideas as to whether or not, if we do see a crunch or a number that basically glitches, do you think these numbers are self-correcting, and this is why it feels like we get back to normal for a while, and then we have these paranormal events that happen?
Well, I think if we're living in a simulation or a simulated reality of some sort, there's got to be an artificial intelligence that's running all of it, and that's distributing all these codes to make sure everything stays stable. Now, I think what happens is, in order to keep things stable, it'll push out certain numbers. It'll push out certain codes that may cause slight changes in the reality that we see reflected in the Mandela effect. But it's actually what it's doing. It's averting disaster for the entire simulation, because let's just say, something happens slightly differently, 50 years ago, but it causes an asteroid to hit the Earth and then that simulation, or at least this part of the simulation, is destroyed. It averts that disaster, and we see those tiny changes reflected in what we call the Mandela effect. And I think that's the self-correction that we're seeing. The Mandela effect is just a symptom of that self-correction.
Well, and if I can go back to Professor Gates's work, that was his whole basis, was this is a self-correcting computer code that he found.
Right.
He found the code that actually does the correcting itself, which is, it's so
astonishing.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, and we're all transmitters of that code. And as I said, it's on a cellular level. You look at the numbers in Gematria, you look at the numbers from the Bible talking about cells and how they haven't got the foggiest idea of how the whole machine works. It's just we're just caught in the middle of this machine that's self-correcting, and it happens run by some intelligence, some either artificial intelligence or some intelligent being that's somehow pushing the numbers and making the code. So here we are watching this around us wondering, is this how the paranormal is? The paranormal happens when these codes somehow break down and someone's busily trying to push the codes back in order so we don't have a glimpse, or we get a glimpse, but then it goes away quickly, of ghosts or some demonic encounter, or even aliens for that matter. These are things that somehow get in. I remember watching The Matrix. They were talking about the old programs where vampires existed and other things existed. It's just an amazing way of thinking about it. Chris Gio with us and Cherie Gio tonight talking about glitches in the Matrix. Have you had an experience where you felt like there was a glitch and then it all self-corrected all of a sudden? We want to hear from you about that tonight. We'll talk more with Chris and Cherie coming up. 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
This is a great show.
This is a great show.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun.
I am too. I want to tell Clyde about the dream that I had, which just like blows my mind still, even talking about this. So for our audience here at Beyond the Veil, I've talked about this in previous shows, but I had a dream. It was random. No real events were taking place. You know, it was like backwoods kind of stuff. I was at a cabin or something like that. I've had recurring dreams about this cabin before, though. But this guy comes up to me and he says, "Do you know anything about solsticism?" And I said, "No, what's that?" And he goes, "Neither do I." And that's it. And I've never heard that term before. And I mentioned it on the show, and somebody says solsticism. That's the whole solipsism. Yeah, that's the whole theory, that there's only one. You're the only consciousness that's real in your existence. How is it that I'm getting that in the dream? And I had no idea what that meant. It blew my mind still to this day. So how do you pronounce it?
Solipsism.
Solipsism. Okay, yeah, because I do want to mention that solipsism. I want to be accurate when I'm saying it. So okay.
Yeah. That I think.
Well, somebody mentioned the Bible, and I was actually going to read a couple of Bible verses here. I just didn't have a chance to flip through to find them. But the word "the Matrix" is mentioned in the Bible from just a quick random search 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The word "matrix" in the King James Version. Why do they have the word matrix in the King James Version? Everything that opened the matrix in all flesh, which they bring unto the Lord, whether it be of men or of beast, shall be thine. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man shall thou surely redeem, and the firstling of unclean beasts thou shalt redeem. And I behold, I have taken. I need to go get this LASIK corrected.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time seeing the screen.
Your glasses are right there.
Yeah, here.
Try 'em?
Here it is,
Okay.
right here.
How far did you get?
This one here.
And I, behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead of all the firstborn that openeth the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine. Then Numbers 18:15, everything that openeth the matrix in all flesh, which they bring unto the Lord, whether it be of men or beasts, shall be thine. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man shalt thou surely redeem, and the firstling of unclean beasts shalt thou redeem. Exodus 13:15. And it came to pass when Pharaoh would hardly let us go that the Lord slew all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord all that openeth the matrix, being males, but all the firstborn, etc., etc. Interesting.
That's the King James Version too. So,
yeah.
You can't argue and say, well, it's a new translation.
That's a new translation. No, it's not a new translation. That's the King James Version, which arguably is the oldest one that we have access to.
I mean, there's only one thing I can say to that. Whoa. Here we are with my dorky little glasses again.
Are they working?
No, they're actually making it worse.
Okay.
Yeah, these were the prescription before the LASIK. My left eye again is going out, and they said this can happen. But I went and they did tests, and they said my eyes were 20/20 together, but it's not 20/21,
separately,
by itself.
Yeah.
But I think the left eye is causing more blurriness again. So, but I got the lifetime warranty,
right?
So I can go in there and get it corrected for free.
Yeah. Which is really cool.
Chris, would you recommend LASIK? The only reason I'm saying this is because this company was so good with me. There's a company called LASIK Plus, and they have places all over the United States. And I got it here, but we're moving to another city, and they actually have a location there, so I can go get this corrected after we move at that other location. And they let me pay in payment plans, and they didn't even do a credit check or anything like that. I mean, they just took me on my word, and I was so grateful for that. It helped tremendously. Before, I was getting headaches because this eye was so out of whack that it was constantly straining, so it was constantly causing all of this. So it worked great for me. But I noticed over time, it started to go away, but that's why they do the warranty like that. So check that out, LASIK Plus. But do some research though, I mean, you're shooting lasers into your eyes. So that's it was scary. I mean, not scary like, oh my God, but scary like, I could possibly lose my vision. If something goes wrong, they're shooting a laser into my eye, but no,
that's why
it was great.
They wouldn't even do it on me because I have Fuchs dystrophy cornea. It's like a problem with the corneas, and eventually I'll need cornea transplants, but that and the Ehlers-Danlos, they were like, no, your connective tissue is all messed up. We're not doing LASIK on you. And
look how many people we have watching.
Oh, what?
It's on the screen, Bre.
Yeah. Don't call me Bre.
Bre Bubuna.
I can't see it. It's too small.
333. Oh, now there's 334, of course.
That's I see a different number completely, 327. But if it was 333, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't see that small. But LASIK is a great thing if you don't have problems with your eyes already. But that's great that they did that lifetime warranty for you. These are some great topics that we're talking about, and it would be a good segue into the artificial intelligence information. But we have Guy Needler coming on tomorrow night, and we also have Brad Olson joining us again this Saturday. So
cool.
Be sure to stay tuned for that as well.
And then we're getting the hell out of here.
Yep,
I'm looking forward to it. No more
last show here in
4
this
feet
house.
of snow. Can't do it anymore.
Yep. We're
it
done.
was funny. At first, I got one of those Eskimo jackets, and I was trekking through the snow. It felt kind of manly too. Trekking through the snow, pushing the snow out. Rugged, yeah, that's it. But after that, it kind of lost its appeal. And it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
The landscape here is amazing. And when it gets to snowing, I mean, it's like a card.
It's like a Christmas card.
Yeah, it is. But when you're living in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere for several years and there's like 3 restaurants. It's not cool.
Yeah.
So, yes, we are leaving Washington to an undisclosed location.
To an undisclosed location high up on the Rocky Mountains. We used to have an intro that did that, and we had the same guy that George Norrie used.
Yeah, I remember that.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location high up on the Rocky Mountains. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Kristen, I'm so sorry. She said her dad has a bad staph infection in his blood that's attacking his torn rotator cuff. He's taking IV antibiotics until it's gone. I wonder if ILife will help him. Speaking from experience, it might. It very well might help with certain things.
Where the past, present, and future all coexist on the same timeline. Where happiness is an illusion. This is the future we are in right now. Where our phones are the first things that we touch when we wake up, the last thing we touch before falling asleep. Radiant, seductive screens we so lovingly, endlessly gaze upon. Much like you're doing right now. Welcome to a future where our true reflection is only revealed once the screen goes.
That's true, though.
Welcome to the darkness. I hope you find it enlightening.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Siri.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Siri.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Siri.
give up.
See, I'm not the only one that uses Tyrannosaurus Rex sound effects. Aha!
T-Rex.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. So we're talking about glitches in the Matrix. We're talking about the possibility of simulated reality. It all harkens back to the show we did with Nick Hinton about whether or not the Higgs boson, or the Higgs boson, depending on what side of the tracks you're on, is unstable, that maybe they fired it at CERN in July of 2012 when the world did end, and that we were thrown, as Stephen Hawking would say, into a different dimension so quickly that we didn't realize it. We didn't realize it. And so the Earth now is trying to make up for lost time as it's repairing itself. The magnetic field seems to be going wonky. We've had earthquakes. We had a really bad earthquake between Jamaica and Cuba today. Tsunami warnings. We're just seeing all these strange things happening. Weather's changing. Everything's changing. We're changing too. And many people believe that we are becoming aware of how our existence seems to be like one big sim game. John Wheeler was one of the last physicists who worked with Albert Einstein and many of the great physicists of the 20th century. And he said that physics were initially thought to be about the study of physical objects, that everything was reducible to particles. And this is what often is called the Newtonian model. But we discovered quantum physics, and we realized that everything was a field of probabilities and it wasn't actually physical objects. Taken to this level, we learned that everything is information. Everything is numbers. Everything is mathematics. Everything is based on bits. So Wheeler came up with a famous phrase called it from bit, which is the idea that anything we see as physical is really the result of bits of information. He didn't live to see quantum computers at all. He didn't live to see them because, well, he passed away. But it's looking more like the quantum computers are turning everything into bits. Everything that can be constructed can be taken bit by bit by bit, and we can replicate universes. So if the world isn't really physical, it's based on information. So then a similar explanation might, in fact, be that we are in a simulation that is generated based on computer science and information from some sort of intelligence that is running the whole show. I mean, this could mean that all these highly advanced computers are somewhere in the future projecting the past to a sympathetic audience or an interactive audience that can, from time to time, intervene and change the course of the timeline. If even one civilization got to the point of creating one of these high-fidelity simulations, then they can create literally billions of civilizations that are simulated, each with trillions of beings, because all you need is more computing power. So with more computing power comes more dimensions, with more civilizations, with perhaps more doppelgangers of yourself and others, parallel universes that could be on standby or that could overlap, creating those various Mandela effects, deja vus, and whatever ghostly encounters or paranormal encounters you have. And that's what it means by the veil being thinned. I mean, there's a body of thought that dreams, when you dreams are a stand-in for what can be called consciousness that occupies many dimensions and many worlds simultaneously. And this is part of what is called possible worlds or alternative worlds. It's a thought experiment. And many of us have had dreams that have come true or have forewarned us about future events. But the big question is whether or not the dream time carries us into the various simulations that exist in the Matrix. Are they key to the different worlds that exist within worlds and realities? A very big question is, can any of these worlds interact with one another, and can signals be exchanged between two worlds? Many people say yes. The old saying goes, when we think of what dreams might come when we have died, it causes us to stop and think. The passage deals with past lives and lives we have not lived yet, but most certainly will, in dreams, we'll live these things when they come. Many stop and observe that perhaps they have lived before, or they encountered a twin of themselves in the future, or some other form of superposition, which, of course, leads us back to quantum physics. Chris and Cherie Gio with us tonight on Ground Zero talking about this. They talk about a lot of glitches in the Matrix. Many people have had experiences of this. And so, Chris and Cherie, welcome back to Ground Zero. When we talk about dreams, there are some scientists and physicists now and some philosophers that are saying that when we dream, we are basically actually constructing the many branches of timelines, that we go into these areas and we do it because that is just one way we rebuild or build these dimensions in our sleep. What do you say about that?
Well, I want to share a dream with you and get your reaction real quick. It was a random dream, nothing too interesting going on within the dream, but I encountered this person and he came up to me and he said, "Do you know anything about solipsism?" And I said, "No, I don't." And he goes, "Neither do I." And I talked about it on the show and people said, "Oh my God, that's actually a real term." And I looked it up and I was shocked to hear what solipsism is. Solipsism, which is the idea that you're the only consciousness that exists within your reality. So It was crazy because I've never heard this term before, but here it is. I'm pulling this term out of a dream. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, solipsism, I've always called heliocentrism, which means that you feel like you are the center of the universe and that anything outside your own mind isn't real, so that you're living in your own reality and that everybody around you are players in that reality. It's just a simple idea that, you have these experiences, but every once in a while you have a collective experience with people because people for that moment in time have this experience. But most of the time, other minds are not existing in your reality, or they're not experiencing the same reality you are. Let's put it that way. It's the idea that you could be sitting in an office building humming a tune, you get in the car, you turn it on, it's on the radio. It means that you are the center of the universe. It happens all the time. It's kind of a coincidental thing. But if people are all caught up in the idea that their reality is the only reality and there's not other various realities, and that's when you fall into solipsism.
I don't agree with the theory whatsoever. I think that this is a collective simulation that we're experiencing, and that we're all real players within this simulation interacting in the same space.
Well, what about when you have a reality that no one else is having? It's called the Oz factor. When you're experiencing something and the people around you aren't experiencing it. I mean, is that are you having some sort of a what we call a break with reality, or are you having this experience because it's meant for only you to have it? That's where you fall into the solipsism, whether or not you are the one who are solipsistic in the process.
Well, that's very true. And then you think about the dream state as well, and we do create another simulation within the dream state, which goes right to the idea that you were talking about. Can we create other simulations within dreams? And I would say it's very possible that when we sleep, that's how we are transferred into another reality. We had this experience the other day, and I'm sure that you've had several experiences like this, where you wake up and you think it's a different day, but the events go even deeper than that. Cherie and I were driving down in the back roads in Idaho in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden this deer comes out. We're driving about 60 miles an hour down the highway, just barely miss it. I wake up the next day, and it's almost as if I replayed the day all over again, except for without hitting the deer, or without coming close to hitting the deer, without even taking that road on this particular day. And I wonder, did we actually die in that timeline and then woke up in a different simulation and just kept on going? And how many times could this have possibly happened within our time space, or within our lifetime? And is it possible that we never actually die, but rather we just die in other people's realities, but we just keep on going and going and going endlessly?
Well, there was actually a time that after my third cancer, I thought I died. I thought I had died and that I was in this reality where I was a ghost, because it just seemed to me that whatever I tried to do, I never could be successful at it. I was falling apart with it. And I just felt as though that I was just kind of a non-player. You know, I was like in the middle of everything, watching it and not playing with it, or not playing inside of it. And it was very hard for me because I was trying to, you know, look at me, I'm doing this. Look at me, I'm this. And no one seemed to really understand that I was doing this. And I think it's because, you know, when you go through something like that, people tend to be afraid of it. They're afraid that they may get it too. And so you find yourself, you know, finding out who your real friends are. But then again, I just felt like, well, maybe I'm just the illusion to them. And it was really a weird mental state I was in. And finally I snapped out of it and realized, no, I'm real, and I'm not a ghost, and I'm not dead. But there are times when, you know, you have some traumatic experience like this. I mean, I had experience when I was in the hospital where I was in a lot of pain, my third surgery. And I remember they couldn't get me out of pain. It was because they didn't put a block on my back. And a nurse showed up. And she was this black woman, and what she did is she held me in her arms until the pain went away. And I was so grateful for that, because I was able to fall asleep in this woman's arms. And I thought it's very uncanny, or it's not something a nurse does, but she did. She stayed with me the whole night, holding me in her arms until I fell asleep. The next day, I asked if the woman would be coming back so I could thank her, and they said that woman was never on the staff, that she didn't exist.
Wow. Let me ask you this. Did you remember any of this from the third person?
What do you mean?
I've had these memories, and I've shared these memories with others, and others have shared their memories, where you come into a traumatic experience and you remember it from a third person, almost as if your spirit or your soul or consciousness jumps out of the body, and you're experiencing the pain or remembering the pain, but you're not actually experiencing it as you're going through it.
It's almost as if it's happening to another person.
No, I didn't do that. But one of the things that really has me uncomfortable is that I see the faces of my friends and my wife and those who were in the operating room the day I had my cancer surgery and I was wheeled out. And they talk about the way I acted when I came out. And I have never seen such sadness in their faces, because they said I was writhing in pain and screaming and yelling. And it was almost as if I was going crazy. And it must have been very traumatic for them, because every time they tell me that story, I see it on their faces, and it just makes me feel uncomfortable when I watch it, because I don't remember a single moment of that time. It was almost as if it was in another lifetime that has been buried in my brain, in my subconscious, that unless I do regressive therapy or anything like that, I won't remember. But they remember it, and they show sadness when they talk about it. It's like another timeline where that happened. 877-733-1011. Christian Cherie.
I'm getting chills listening to Clyde. I've got him muted, but or I've got him muted going up.
Me too.
But I'm getting chills listening to, like, I felt all of that he was talking about.
Mm-hmm. This is an incredible show.
It is.
It really is.
Wow.
We're going deep.
Yes.
You know, now, I mean, we could even go into ancient civilizations. I mean, the whole argument behind, you know, we can't be living in a simulation. The entire argument, if you look it up there on Google, there's an article, I think it was some science magazine, and they said, there's scientists provide proof that we cannot be living in a simulation. Their whole argument was based on the idea that because our technology would not allow us to create a simulation right now, that means that it's impossible to create a simulation like that would be as big as our universe. And I'm like, just because something doesn't exist right now doesn't mean that it wouldn't exist, 200 or 300 years in the future. 100 years ago, computers didn't even really exist. I mean, you had counting machines and things like that and tallying machines, but there was never a time.
Pay no mind to the man behind the curtain.
I have no idea what he's doing. But just because we don't have the technology right now doesn't mean we wouldn't have the technology in 200 or 300 years if we continued on the path that we're on. So that's a complete, I don't even know what to call it, but it's a logical fallacy of some sort to think that just because we don't have the technology to create a simulation that would be as big as our universe is right now, it would never be able to happen.
I'm going to give you a logical fallacy after the show. Such an interesting word, logical fallacy.
Fallacy.
Sorry.
But yeah, so with that in mind, how do we know that the real world, the world where this simulation is based off of, it's a simulation of that world? How do we know that that world isn't thousands and thousands of years more advanced than we are right now, and that they have done this before? Like, this isn't the first simulation that this reality has been. It could have been a very technologically advanced civilization back in Atlantis, for instance, and it got too big for its britches in a few ways, and so that's why the deluge and all of that happened and why Atlantis sunk. It wasn't,
Well, it's like Clyde said, there's never been a recorded simulation a recorded civilization that created a simulation.
Right.
So every time a civilization gets to that point,
right, it has to be reset in order for the cat not to be completely out of the bag.
Yeah, because you can't have the players knowing that it's a simulation.
Right.
And especially tapping into the energies of the simulation, injecting code into the simulation and messing the simulation up, because then it creates a complete imbalance within the machine. And as we see right now, the consciousness of the collective out there is a very low-level consciousness, but the low-level consciousness with the ability to inject code into the matrix sends it in a complete whirlwind as we're seeing it right now, which could be, maybe we can get into that. I don't know. I think that's a little too deep.
Might be a little bit too deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris and Sheree Gio with us tonight on Ground Zero. Talking about glitches in the Matrix, numbers, how they all fit in, and if there's any breakdown, a reality breakdown, if the reality breakdown is mental problem or it's something that everyone experiences, because of course we have constants that may not be as constant as we think they are. We've talked about everything from Heisenberg to talked about Planck's constant, talking about a lot of other things tonight, as certainly Mandela effects and other things. So we're looking at self-correction, we're looking at ghostly encounters, paranormal encounters. Somebody once told me that the paranormal encounters are what reality is. Everything else is the lull, is the non-reality, that the earth has always been like this, that the numbers are constantly, shifting and changing, and that the constants are just constant all the time. So would you say that's true, that maybe these lulls we're in are not the reality, that the shakeups, the earthquakes, the changes in everything, climate, are what the reality is, that we actually live in a violent world, and that a lot of these paranormal experiences are indicators of how we live in a simulated the simulated programmable world?
I would say that
Chris,
things.
You there?
Oh,
Sherry, you there?
Here we are. All right.
Okay.
You were muted on this end. I would say that this is not the way the simulation was designed. It was supposed to be a lot more harmonious. But as the consciousness devolved, while at the same time the awareness of the simulation itself began to become more and more apparent, I think what we found is that the collective consciousness has been suckered into creating horrible situations within the Matrix.
Chaos.
Yeah, creating chaos. And, that leads me to the idea of magic, black magic, astrology, all of these different things that are set to be esoteric. But in actual fact, I mean, we have, 19, 20-year-old kids that listen to our show. I may say, oh, yeah, mind over matter, manifestation, all of this. I mean, you yourself, Clyde, perfect example. You went through cancer 3 times, and it's all mind over matter. I mean, it's painful going through, as you described, but ultimately you're still here because it's that mind over matter. You tapped into that, the essence of the Matrix, and changed the code for yourself and created a different outcome.
I actually feel like that. I really do. I feel like that will was more important than anything else. And I've talked about tulpas before, manifestations, and that reality is a manifestation, that seeds are planted. But see, the question we ask ourselves is, if there are multiple universes and multiple outcomes, which is the mother universe? Are we in the mother universe, or has the mother universe died and we have been put into another universe that's a backup?
Where is base reality? Yeah, that's the big question in all of this. Yeah. And I think of Terence McKenna's work. He talked about time wave zero and the point of singularity around 2020. And I mean, I'm not 2020, 2012. Everything is revolving around 2012. It seems like there was this huge awakening, while at the same time, that's when the glitches in the Matrix started really becoming more and more apparent. You talked about several different scenarios in 2012 that could have possibly happened. Something changed. But do you remember this?
They discovered the Higgs boson in 2012.
Yes.
Right.
Well, they discovered the Higgs boson, which was the power of the Big Bang. Now, imagine that going on under the planet. The power of a major star exploding under our planet. How did that not affect our time wave? How did that not affect the Matrix? How did that not affect us? And if it was unstable, as Stephen Hawking said, that the world has ended and we are not aware of it yet. We have not felt the end of the world because it happened so quickly that we've been thrown into another form of existence. And this is why Mandela effects exist. This is why we're having a lot of paranormal activity, why a lot of UFO activity is happening, and why the Earth is going through the changes it's going through.
Something I've speculated is that we were actually evac'd before this cataclysmic event, and we woke up and found ourselves in a simulation, which is why everything is so different. I'm sure you remember as a kid looking up at the sky and the sun was yellow. It seems white now, and people will say, well, that's the chemtrails, that's all this stuff, but it doesn't seem like the same sun that we were looking at as children.
And the sun, you're right, the sun has been at its weakest in 200 years. They're saying it's dead. They've never seen anything like it before. It's been a long time, and we're going through that cycle, solar minimum. But the solar minimum has been so minimum. It's been the lowest it's ever been in 200 years.
It is.
That's terrifying to think about. It really is.
It really is. And if you look at astrology, for instance, a lot of people think, astrology is just, it's voodoo. It doesn't, if you read just your regular horoscope in the newspaper, it's not going to sound like you at all. I mean, it's almost a joke in the world of science to believe in astrology. However, if you get an astrologer that knows what they're doing, they can predict so many things that nobody would be able to just predict. For instance, I do astrology, and I did a birth chart for somebody, and 5 separate times house fires came up. It turns out, yes, she's had so many house fires that she
was on the way to meet us.
Yep.
And one of her rental properties caught fire, and she wasn't able to come out.
So,
wow. And it was all right there in the stars.
It's another indication that we're living in a simulation.
Well, there's another indication too that we're going to get to if we want. Go there. Apparently, researchers have identified that 100 stars, even more stars, have mysteriously disappeared, and they're not accounted for. Ooh. They don't know where they've gone. They have set stating all the way back to the 50s, and many of those bright dots have vanished without a trace. They don't know where they've gone, and it's not because they've fallen or gone supernova. They've just disappeared. 877-733-1011. We'll be back.
You know what I wanted to bring up? I wish these segments were so
a
short.
little bit longer.
Was what happens if the computer player or the video game player, if they find a back door into the system code itself?
Right.
And that's what the Higgs boson particle was.
Yep.
We found a back door into the system, found the base level code, which then created catastrophe everywhere.
Yeah, chaos.
Because we don't know what to do with it. I mean, just go into the back door of any system, or go into the back code of any system without any coding experience and change one variable. All you got to do is just change one variable. It will take out the whole system in some cases.
Right. That's a 2-year-old not just playing with matches, but with nuclear launch codes.
Yeah. I'll
be right back.
Yeah. I was working for a company doing programming at one point, and I changed one variable. Instead of putting 2 equal signs, I put 1 equal sign. And I didn't even notice because I'd been working on code. I'd been looking at everything, and it just all looked right. So we ran it. Everything came out great. Started running it. It started sending out $200 items to people that were ordering $2 items because of that one missing equal sign. And we shut everything down immediately. Had to go through literally everything, find it. Finally, we found it was missing that one equal sign. So if it's missing, if just that one equal sign can change the entire dynamic, imagine what going into the back door and the back end of the matrix and changing one little variable can do. Complete disaster. So I need to grab a little more coffee real quick. I hope I have time. Let's see what I have here to play real quick. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen.
If you have a golf ball sized consciousness, when you read a book, you'll have a golf ball size understanding. When you look out, a golf ball size awareness. And when you wake up in the morning, a golf ball size wakefulness. But if you could expand that consciousness, then you read the book, more understanding. You look out, more awareness. And when you wake up, more wakefulness. It's consciousness. And there's an ocean of pure, vibrant consciousness inside each one of us. And it's right at the source and base of mind, right at the source of thought, and it's also at the source of all matter. This pure consciousness is called by modern physics the unified field that allows any human being.
All right. Cherie's grabbing coffee for me. Ron, if you happen to still be in the chat room listening to the back end, what I'd really like to do, if possible, is kind of end it kind of on a positive note about what we can do with this understanding of the simulation and how we can change our own reality for the better, thus changing the reality of others.
It's okay. Did you see it again? Is it the same vision?
Yes. Why do these visions keep coming to me? Every time I go to sleep, I feel trapped in the same place.
Why don't you let me fix you some of this new mococo drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners.
What the hell are you talking about?
Who are you talking to? I've tasted other cocos. This is the best.
What the hell does this have to do with anything? Tell me what's happening!
Well, you're having a nervous breakdown. That's what's happening.
You're part of this, aren't you?
Whenever weird things like this happen in life, I've seen a lot of people mention that The reason it's happening is because we live in the matrix, and this is just a glitch in the system.
That's so funny because I told Cherie a couple of months ago as I was writing music, I said, music is going to start to go back towards the 80s. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I was listening to, I think it was one of Post Malone's latest tracks, and a couple of other tracks, and it was very, very, very 80s sounding.
Right.
Yeah.
Elon Musk says that we're living in a simulation. He's not the only person that theorizes this. Basically, we're in a video game being controlled by higher beings, and we're all just like in Super Mario Brothers.
Yes, I wish I had a good argument against that hypothesis, and I do not. And you make a canon of laws of physics. That would be your world. And then you'd wonder, am I real or am I not? So you can have nested, simulated universes all the way down, but there's only one real universe.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. Before I went to break, I was talking about something that has me a little chilled, and that is, all through history, navigators have steered their ships using fixed stellar patterns for centuries. Our eyes look up at the sky. We see heroes and villains that are amongst the stars that seem to make up all kinds of characters, from astrology to other characters of mythologies. We've identified this for some time now. We've used the stars as our guides. But usually people don't look up. They don't watch closely enough. But what if I were to tell you that the night sky is not constant? What if I were to tell you that the stars are winking out now, and that the stability of space is not necessarily what it seems? It seems that what I was reading the other day is that there was a number of samples, and it was done by a group of astronomers, and they wanted to kind of point out that their observations, looking at a 70-year-old survey, looking at recent images of the night sky, seem to show that after years of painstaking work, they recently announced their first results of the Astronomical Journal. At least 100 pinpricks of light that appeared in the mid-20th century as stars in the sky have gone dark. The vanished light sources could represent short-lived flashes in the night or possibly disappearance of lasting heavenly bodies, but what researchers are confirming is that they're not seeing these stars anymore. No supernovas, no indications of the stars leaving. They just have gone away, immediately being zapped of their light, and no one knows where they've gone. Which once again tells you that perhaps all of that certainty that we've talked about tonight is not all that certain. Chris and Cherie Gio are with us tonight on Ground Zero. What do you make of these stars that have disappeared?
It's fascinating, Clyde. I mean, I'm just reading the article myself as you were speaking, and it's definitely an interesting anomaly. But I think it just goes to show Terence McKenna's time wave zero theory, for example, the point of singularity. Mm-hmm. Rather than disappearing, I'm wondering if it's all just kind of closing in on itself, kind of constricting and constraining and coming down to that point of singularity. What happens at that point, I don't know, but science says that the universe is expanding, and eventually everything that expands should theoretically contrast. If everything must go contract, yeah. If everything goes up, must come down. Yeah.
Elasticity of the universe. I was talking with my producer during the break, and I thought maybe this is how the world ends. Maybe it happens so subtle and so slowly that we don't get it. But some people are well aware that things have changed, that everything is not constant. Like you said, the sun is changing colors. It's been really weak in its solar minimum. We haven't reached solar maxima. We could run into something called the dead certain model, where sure, everybody's griping and crying about things getting warmer, but dead certain, which is the idea that everything cold is dead, and the idea that if it gets colder, we're all going to die, has nothing to do. I mean, everybody can deal with warmth, but we cannot deal with cold. And this could be something where we immediately freeze up. The Earth turns into a very impressive tombstone, and all things end the way they're supposed to. It's just a creepy idea, and we're watching this happen. What happened?
Do you remember that old Twilight Zone where it's an end of the world scenario, and everything was getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and the sun was burning everything up?
The sun was getting bigger or moving closer.
And then
or
at the end, he wakes up, and the sun's actually freezing, and everything is still ending, but everything was just a dream nonetheless. But it kind of reminds me of that, and how volatile reality really is. Which, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I never would have questioned the nature of reality in this capacity, but it's becoming so much more apparent. But what I do want to say to the audience, though, is the understanding of the simulation, the understanding of the nature of reality allows you to make this reality better. We make this reality whatever we want it to be. And if we think of doom and disaster and chaos and all of this, we're going to create that reality for ourselves. But we can think of the opposite, just like you did with your cancer, Clyde. You can overcome that. And you change your own reality first. Then you change the world by changing your own reality, and then others change their reality as well. I used to look at changing the world like moving a mountain. It's impossible. But then I realized all we have to do is just pick up a single rock ourselves and then show someone else how to pick up a rock themselves. And then pretty soon the entire mountain moves. So we can steer this in any direction we want. We can steer it towards a cataclysmic event, or we can steer it towards a world that's harmonious again. But there's one thing for sure, the world is completely out of balance.
Oh, it's not going to be, I don't know. I was having a discussion about the idea of a cataclysm being the end of the world, but maybe it's just a long-term, it's just a long-term slow death. It's a long-term slow conversion into another dimension. We've already been thrust into some dimension. Now we got to get into another one. And it's like an overlapping dimensional flurry that we're all a part of, and people are having different experiences. We're going to go to the calls right now at 877-733-1011. Let's go to Carol in Florida. Hi, Carol. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde.
Hi.
You took me up tonight. I just flipped my channel and I heard you talking about your experience with your cancer surgery. I had an accident in 2012, December 12th. I stepped off my lawn and fell in a ditch, broke my femur. The fire department couldn't even get me out of the ditch. Okay, I had to have immediate surgery. When I was recovering, the pain was unbelievable, because it was in the night, in the early morning, and I had not eaten for many hours, and I had this horrific pain. And they couldn't give me any more painkillers. A little man walked into the recovery room with a saucer. China, in hospital, you don't get China with a saucer. A little Demitasse cup, And he gave me something to drink. And then I realized it was like black coffee.
Wow.
I wasn't able to move because I was packed like a sausage, But he raised my head and I drank it. A human I'm talking about. I drank it, and he said, "You will feel better," and he walked away. And he put his head in a little while later and he said, "How are you feeling?" I was getting an enormous help with the pain.
Right.
So it helped, and I sort of was easing back to.
What did this man look like, Carol? Can you tell me what he looked like?
The man was about 5'4", short guy.
Yeah.
Had a beard.
Oh, a beard.
A little beard.
Okay.
A goatee-like, a little beard.
Okay.
He had gray in it. He was elderly. He looked Middle Eastern. A Middle Eastern man. He had a cap on his head like a doctor. He was dressed as a doctor in surgical wear, So,
I had an experience with my first cancer surgery where I was in the hospital, and every morning at 7 o'clock, I was awakened by a little man coming into my room serving me coffee. And he had a full-on silver service that he served me. He was in a tuxedo. He was a little man. He looked like he was Thai or Filipino. He would come in and he would give me coffee every morning at 7 o'clock. And I said to one of the nurses, I says, "Boy, we have great service here. This man comes in with a tuxedo and gives me coffee every morning." She says, "There's no such man that does that." I go, There is. So one morning I told the nurse, I said, "Wait for the man. He'll come in at 7. He came in at 7. The nurse was there. She saw the man there. And the nurse said, "Who are you?" And he said, I'm no one. I am here to serve Mr. Lewis his coffee. And she says, "But you're not hired here to do such a thing." He says, "I was hired by somebody to come in every morning during visiting hours at 7 a.m. and give Mr. Lewis his coffee right at 7 a.m. sharp." He never told me who paid him. He never told me anything. I didn't know who the guy was. And to this day, I don't know who he was, and I don't know who paid this man to come to my room to give me coffee every morning.
It's amazing. Well, with me, when I told the nurses, they said to me, it's only 3 of us here. It's night, in the hospital in the night. It's like ghostly.
Yeah.
He said, there's no one here, but 3 nurses on the shift. There's no man here.
Right.
So it was unbelievable. It's something that I live with. And when you said it,
yeah,
it took me up,
I really could relate, Carol. I really had that experience when I had my first surgery. This man, I swear, and he just said, I'm being paid to do this. And he didn't tell me who paid him. He didn't tell me anything about him. And after he got caught, he never showed up again. So it was kind of a strange story. Evan in Michigan, you're on Ground Zero with Kristen and Cherie Gio. Go ahead.
Hey, Clyde, how you doing?
Doing good.
Hey, I got a confession to make. I hired the guy in the tuxedo.
Oh, you hired the guy in the tuxedo, right?
So I wanted to give you guys my anecdote on my weird doppelganger experience. About 10 years ago, I was at the grocery store, and I walked by myself. And it was one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me. It's kind of haunted me ever since. And it took me about 30 seconds to process it. And I realized I had to go back and figure out who that person was, because we both looked at each other with this look like I was looking at him and he was looking at me. And then I doubled back and I couldn't find the person. So
was it you, though? It could have been superposition. You ever heard about being in 2 places at once? That happens,
Yeah, I guess that's possible. I hadn't thought about that, but just the memory of it, it seemed like a different person.
Right. Chris and Cherie, what do you think about superposition? How you can be in 2 places at once, maybe even see yourself. People have had, believe it or not, during ghost encounters, or at least ghost investigations, they've had encounters with themselves.
Well, what's interesting is I've had abduction experiences where I have an experience of being abducted, but at the same time, I see myself from the corner of the room in up high, as almost as if my consciousness escaped outside of me. And I've also had those experiences when I'm in a hospital and a lot of pain, like the previous caller said. I think our minds are far more capable of traveling to other states of being than we realize. And this is why you hear about witches throughout history being in 2 places at once. The bilocality trick that they learned how to do. And mostly it was by putting their consciousness inside the mind of an animal, and then they would be able to see through that animal's eyes and experience what that animal experiences. But I think it's entirely possible also that we can actually become 2 separate people. And that takes a lot of will, and it takes a lot of practice for people. But you have stories of monks, Buddhist monks doing this, along with levitation and things like that.
Well, we've had several callers, including guests, talk about these bilocation experiences. I've never experienced it myself, but some people have called in and actually claimed that they woke up in another place, in another part of the world, made a physical change, then woke up back in their bodies, and that physical change could be documented after the fact. It is an amazing phenomenon.
Jason quit about that. He's one of the guys that's talked about this many times on the program, and we even had him on with string theorists and quantum physicists, and they say that his story checks out. It seems to be the superposition is a real thing. I don't know how to explain it, but it's real. These things sounded crazy 30 years ago, but now with quantum physics and investigations into these alleged constants in reality, we're now learning a lot of things about how this reality can change on a dime. 877-733-1011. Chris and Cherie Gio with us tonight on Ground Zero. Back with more. Don't go away. Keep it here.
Yeah, we had Jason on a while back. The poor guy, he got into a really bad car accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, just George was talking about that, about bilocation.
Was he?
The last show.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. That's one thing I've never been able to do. So maybe there's still some work that needs to be done. But My whole thing, what I really want to do is be able to walk through walls, walk through barriers, do things like that. According to, who was that? It was the doctor that told us to go to a DO for your ovary stuff. Rima Labo.
Yeah, Rima Labo.
Yeah. Her husband was the one that they based Stubblebine. I think that's, Stubblebine is the name. It's been so long since I've talked about this.
That was her husband, right?
Yeah. The men that stare at goats. The film was based around that. And they talk about being able to walk through walls, about being able to bilocate, about being able to do all these things, which is nothing more, in my opinion, than hacking the matrix and understanding
exactly
how to hack the matrix.
And that's what we need to bring up with Clyde on the other side of the break, is the fact that this directly relates to the matrix. There are two types of people in the world. There's the type that see the paranormal and think it's the paranormal. Then there's other people who realize, wait, this is a change in code, and I can do this too. If I see that people are doing this, I have the willpower. I can do this too. And we're just those types of people. But yeah, it relates directly to the matrix itself, because that's how you get to hack into the code. That's how you start that process.
What's funny is that when we were 15, 16 years old, I remember the first time we took a heavy amount of psychedelics. I mean, we'd taken psychedelics before, but the first time we took a heavy amount of psychedelics, we were manifesting these little energy balls, and we were throwing them back and forth at each other. And we didn't know what we were doing, and we just thought it was all just part of the trip. And then I remember we were trying to put our hands and then make them pass through objects. And, again, we had no idea what we were trying to do, but at 15, 16 years old, we were still trying to do this as if this heightened state of consciousness was kind of a clue to say, hey, you can do this. It's weird. And then it's funny because all that stopped. And then here we are again. I think we're approaching these same kind of ideas, though, through a much more mature kind of perspective, rather than, okay, what can I do to get superpowers, for example? It's more now of what can I do to change reality for the better?
Right.
My own reality and the reality of those around us.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's why, I don't know, I haven't been able to put my hand through the table yet. But I think it's possible, though.
I think a lot of it
has by being able to understand the code.
Yeah, that's half the battle, and the other half is deciding why you want to be able to put your hand through the table. You know, and deciding, okay, morally, what are the ramifications of this? Am I responsible enough to handle this?
Yeah, I've never gone into an ayahuasca state looking for superpowers.
No.
I've always gone into an ayahuasca state looking for understanding.
Right.
And looking for how I can change things for the better.
Right. It's childlike to just want to be a superhero.
Yeah.
When you grow up, you realize, okay, I got to have the responsibility to handle this kind of thing.
It's funny how things work.
Then I'll hack into the matrix code and do these remarkable things.
I'm Clyde Lewis. Christian Sharif Geo with us tonight, talking about glitches in the matrix and the strange activities that are happening that you may be experiencing. Sometimes reality isn't as constant as we think it is. We're going to go to Carlos now, calling in from Texas. Hi, Carlos. You're on Ground Zero.
Thanks for taking my call, Clyde. I just want to say that, and I want to confirm what you're saying about the matrix. In the book of Genesis, it states that in the beginning, the earth was without form and empty. In other words, it's telling us that the earth was destroyed. Therefore, the book of Genesis holds a mystery, because the way the Bible reads is the same way we write a program into a computer. For example, God said, "Let there be light." Let the waters be divided. Let there be fowls and birds in the air. Let there be trees and plants. Let there be rivers. Let us create man. Then God told Adam and Eve, go and replenish the earth. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the program sequence. Everything is based, as I said earlier, on photons. How light affects time, how light affects our existence. Let there be light was said for a reason. It was the frequency and the word that put things into existence. The thought processes put things in existence, which made it...
But isn't it similar to the way we write a program into a computer?
Right. It goes from the mind of the creator into the matrix the creator puts into the programming.
There you go.
And that's exactly what God did, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah.
And I just wanted to close by saying that Sergeant Major Robert Dean believed that CERN was created to repeat history or to create an infinite loop in time in order to delay or postpone the end of the world according to the Bible.
Very interesting, Carlos. I never heard of it that way before. A lot of people think that it may end the world. Some people say it already has ended the world because of the Higgs boson and how it may be unstable. Chris and Cherie, we're out of time, but I want to thank you again for being on the program and giving us your thoughts. Where can we find you doing your broadcasts and your podcasts?
We're primarily on tfrlive.com and also youtube.com/beyondtheveil. And if I can take a moment, Clyde, if you don't mind, we also have a CBD oil company called Aya Life, which is at ayalife.com, which has really helped us to get back in balance and do all of that, hacking the matrix, et cetera, relieving pain, everything that people brought up this evening. So I would urge people to check that out. Put in coupon code Clyde as well, and we'll do a $10 off discount for everybody. So thank you very much for letting us plug that.
Thank you so much. Thank you both for being on the program. Certainly an interesting time to be alive as we're seeing all things change. And like I said, it seems that all of the constants aren't so constant. Dreams are dreamt. People are experiencing these strange experiences. The heavens are changing. The sun is changing as well. The magnetic fields are changing. Everything about this planet is changing. And maybe it's because that it's in a different realm, and we have to prepare for a realm to come. More to come on Ground Zero. 877-733-1011. Have you ever had a glitch in the Matrix? Have you ever had something where reality just didn't seem as, well, like reality for you or anyone else around you? Love to hear from you tonight. Opening the phones for your comments at 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. Let's keep this conversation going. Listen to groundzero.com for more, and we'll be back right here on Ground Zero.
Dun, dun, dun.
Awkward silence.
Silence. Something about silence makes me sick.
I have no idea what
because
that's
silence
from.
can be violent, sort of like a slit wrist. You don't remember that?
I was sheltered, baby.
So
I'm creating that Clyde coupon.
I'm exhausted.
I am too.
Yeah. I thought that was a really fun show, though.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I wasn't planning to plug Aya Life, so I don't know. I could have done a better plug, but, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, you just play it by ear.
Yeah.
Gotta be natural.
we need to mention that. There was people calling in about pain and stuff like that, so, yeah. I guess on that note, Lucky said... Like I said, you guys barely got to talk before you hit the break. I know. Do you remember the old clock, the old GCN clock? That's one of the reasons why we got away from that. Yeah, we had it on TFR for a little while too, but just like it's too many breaks. But that's the standard that all radio stations go through. So let's take a quick break and we'll come back and wrap it up. I don't know. I'm kind of tired, so
I'm exhausted.
I don't know what we're going to talk about
and
when we come
hungry.
back.
So.
Gotta feed the twin.
Mm-hmm.
All the conflict and strife throughout history, all the fear and hatred, serve but one purpose: to keep my master's wheel turning. The coin is still turning. losers, trapped in the pointless round of existence, leading distracted, blunted lives until death returned them, always in ignorance, to the wheel. But what hope had they then?
There is no escape.
It was then I knew what I had to do. I alone could end this. And it was then I saw.
So, I am revealed to you at last.
What in hell?
I am the origin of life, the devourer of death. I am the hub of the wheel, the purifying cycle to which all souls must be drawn. You would be wise to heed me.
Your words are hardening. For you would not fear us unless we could truly do you harm.
No! You are nothing!
False God. This is the end. The final turn of your wheel.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise. Follow your conductors. And fear no danger. As you step beyond the veil.
Something that's really going to piss off Mrs. Geo here. You ready for this, Mrs. Geo? We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. 612-398-0600 if you want to call in. I know several people have called in, and you can thank Nick Bravo for that, because Nick has been asking during the last couple of shows if he can call in, and so I figured, you know what, let's go ahead and take some calls. Maybe we'll do another hour, half hour, maybe an hour, another hour, something like that, and see what is on your mind this evening, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and do that. Got to get into our little call board portal here. Dun, dun, dun. I am feeling a little bit out of it, though. What's on the little twin's mind?
I'm helping a listener.
Okay.
She's having kind of a personal issue with her daughter. You can call in, Dawn, if you want to call in. But yeah, she said that her daughter has had drug-induced psychosis, and they put her on antipsychotics 2 months ago, and she's still hearing voices. And, you know, my advice is, you know, if she's not getting better with the antipsychotics, obviously they're not working. And
you know, that's a very interesting topic, because I'm firmly against psychopharmaceuticals. However, there is a small portion of the population that they actually do work for. So, you know, if you would have talked to me 5 years ago, I would have said, no, it's no good. But there's a small population that it is for, legitimately, and it does help. But if they're not helping, then yeah, I've heard of these medications making things worse.
Mm-hmm.
Remember those kids in East Texas
Yes.
And they were given Wellbutrin or something like that?
Well, it's the same thing as Wellbutrin. It was Chantix.
Chantix. Yeah,
which
they were given
the same
Chantix.
exact thing. It's just repackaged.
Yeah. And they wound up burning down a series of churches and not even remembering that they did this.
It was one of them, actually. And he wasn't even like the guy that had the idea or anything. It was his friend who convinced him that was a great idea to go in the middle of the night and burn down all these churches. And the scary thing is, he didn't remember any of it except maybe holding a gas can at some point, and kind of waking up and with a gas can in his hand. So it's entirely possible, considering it was drug-induced psychosis, that she's just kind of in a permanent bad trip, essentially. And all it takes really is the same techniques you would use on somebody who's having a bad trip should be applied to this person. And let's see if we can use counseling and alternative therapies to try to move her away from the antipsychotics in general, because if it's drug-induced psychosis, then once the drugs are out of your system, it's really just a psychological thing. It's not like she has a brain damage that can be actually attributed to a permanent, disorder.
That is very true.
So.
Let's go to the call board. Actually, 626 just dropped off. Let's see if we can... there they are again. I think we're having some weirdness going on with the call board. So let's go to area code 626. 626, what's your name and what's on your mind tonight? Area code 626, we can hear you moving around.
Hi, Zach, can you hear me?
Going once. There you are. How are you? We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, we can't hear you now. That's it. Okay, let's go to area code 209. Area code 209. What's your name? What's on your mind?
My name's Megan.
Megan,
Hi,
hello.
Megan.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes. What's on your mind tonight?
So, I was wondering if you guys had any advice for me. I'm one of those people that they're like shining a light onto your brain and your eyes and like trying to steal your consciousness is like the easiest way that I could put it.
That's very interesting because we just did a show with George Cavazos it was a few days ago, and he was talking about the phenomenon of people getting hit in the brain with several different devices, and I'm wondering, is that similar to what you're talking about?
Yeah, I always have like 6 drones that follow me around at nighttime. Like I take videos of it every night. Like they just hover outside my window, and when I close my eyes, like I can see like a yellow light on the top, like right of my vision. That's like the square, and then there's another like bright white, like in the lower left when I close my eyes, and then there's a bunch of like these orbs that I take, like they like will make like a 90-degree angle, and it's not dust, like they're much bigger, but I think it's smart dust, but yeah, it like hits me. Somebody said that was from like directed energy weapons when they don't have like energy like going through or whatever. I'm not sure what they are, but
wow. So let me ask you this: what type of negative effects do you feel from this? Does it stop your daily routine? Does it get in the way of things you're doing, or does it create different thought patterns and thought loops? What's the experience with this?
Yeah, my whole life is affected by it. Like, it's hard for me to express myself. Like, I can't meditate or like think clearly at all. Like, my whole life has been disrupted from this crap. Like, but yeah, it's hard for me to express myself and even talk. Like, I can't even think. Like, they also like repeat my thoughts back to me, and like I don't know, I think it's called microwave auditory hearing, but like it bounces off of like my spine, so it sounds like my voice in my head. And so I'll get like a thought like, I want to go to McDonald's, and it sounds like it was me. It sounds like, you know, what you sound like inside of your head. It sounds exactly like me. So it's confusing.
Wow.
You know, and it cooks you from the inside out. So I have a bunch of like rashes and like just like weird stuff all over my skin. I think it's called like biofilm. But like my soul's like starting to deteriorate in my legs and stuff.
Wow. Well, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear that you're going through that. I know that it must be very, very difficult. I understand. Well, not quite what you're experiencing, but I can relate because I recently went through an experience where I was really, really stressed out, and I noticed that the more stressed that I became, the more that I started to manifest physical symptoms, the more what stressed me out, and it was like a never-ending loop. So I think that you're ahead of the curve first and foremost because you're recognizing that this is an outside influence and it's not something that that's coming from within you. So I think you're already able to separate the thoughts from the implanted thoughts, for example. So you definitely see that. The number one thing to do is, in my opinion, is to not stress yourself out even more over it, and kind of recognize when this is happening, and then kind of create this space around you and this bubble of protection, this energetic bubble of protection. And I've talked about this bubble before, and the way that I do my bubble is I'll create a reflective barrier around it. So when these negative energies are coming into the sphere, then they're actually being projected back to the sender. So whoever's sending it is getting back that negative energy as well. And what I've noticed is just by doing that practice, that the negative energy coming this way stops, because they're saying, the people that are sending it are saying, whoa, wait a minute. Every time we send negative energy, something negative keeps on bouncing back to us. So I'm wondering, you know, the only variable here is the fact that we may be dealing with physical technology. And if you're dealing with physical technology, I'm wondering if this type of energetic protection barrier could work with physical technology. Have you focused on any kind of protective shields energetically to see if that deflects and diverts any of this negative energy?
Yeah, it definitely helps. Like when I'm out walking my dog, because she's suffering really bad right now too. Like she looks like she's dead most of the time now. Like it just looks like they're taking over her mind. Like when I look in her eyes, she's like not even there anymore. Like there's no light on anymore. But when we're out walking, I always picture like a huge purple orb surrounding us, and I go whoosh and make like a noise, and I just tell her, I just speak positive, like out loud while I'm walking her the entire time, you know, just to keep the protection around us, you know.
So the orbs, would you say that the orbs are nefarious themselves, or could they be a positive protective force that's trying to counteract some of the technological attacks that you're under?
The ones that are coming at me, or the ones that I make?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the ones that she made.
Oh, there's two different ones. Okay. I thought you just saw orbs. I didn't know that the orbs were doing anything.
The purple
other than
ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the purple one's like my protective orbs, my spiritual protection.
You know, have you thought of putting the winged solar disc up over the window?
My boyfriend like drew one for me, but I don't know if that's the same as getting it like you guys have, you know.
I would say it is.
I mean, say it is.
It's just you know what
that
I've
could
always...
be where the purple orbs are truly coming from. Is having that already symbolically there.
They're not purple. They're like clear. Like they look like dust almost, you know. And you can only see them in the flash of the camera.
Yeah, when it comes to like the solar disc and things like that, in my opinion, all of these things that we use are just physical manifestations of the energy that we're putting behind them. So it doesn't matter if you draw it, doesn't matter if you actually get one and put one up. I think it all has the same effect. But what I'm wondering though is, have you ever thought about getting a cat? Because cats are very, very big protectors.
Huge,
and since we got these two, we have not had any problems with paranormal. We haven't had any problems with grays showing up. We haven't had any problems at all, period, as far as energetic attacks that come from outside. Any energetic attacks are self-imposed at this point, I think, just from all the stress that we've been under and things like that.
I think the grays may have tried to come once, but they couldn't even come any closer to where the cats roam in the backyard. That's as far as they could even get.
I was thinking about getting one.
You should.
I think you
I'm
should.
thinking about getting one.
I think,
and like another thing, like I think it would help because I heard that they're trying to prepare like our bodies, like they make you want to crave sugar badly so that your alkaline or whatever like goes down, and you're preparing your body for a different kind of entity that's trying to come through or something.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that about sugar. But
it's called metabolic acidosis.
Oh, interesting, because I love sugar. I do. And even I've been on this whole health kick, but I still eat a little bit of sugar here and there. I just don't eat nearly as much as I used to, but maybe I need to cut all that out too, because interesting. I never made that connection. But anyway it goes, I would leave you with this and say that ultimately you are the master of your own reality. And I think you are understanding that more and more, and you're understanding that that these things, even though they're invasive, that you do have an element of control over them. I think taking it a step further and realizing that you have total control of them is the next step, and proclaiming out there that these things are no longer allowed to affect you, and see how that goes.
Right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Love ya. And let us know how things progress, please.
Okay, I will. Thank you guys.
Lots of
love
love
to
Take
you.
care.
All right, bye-bye.
Let's go to area code 310. 310, what's your name and what's on your mind tonight?
Hey, what's up, bro? This is Jay.
Hey, how are you?
Chilling. What's going on with you guys?
Man,
So,
trying to break the reality and understand this matrix.
Okay, that's what's up. I got something interesting for you right now. So, this was 2000. Let me get out of here. So this was 2007, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got into, basically me and my friends, we were on our way to the drag races. So we were racing down a street, Merrick Boulevard in New York. And I ran the red light. So basically the police, they started chasing after me. Long story short, I had to end up getting out the car to try to get away from them or whatever. So I ran across to a train track, right? And as I'm walking across the train track, because I'm telling myself in my mind, like, okay, I'm going to cross the train track, and I'm going to, quote unquote, try to pass like this a little small highway or whatever to try to get away. So anyway, as I'm walking over the train tracks, I fall on the train tracks. And in my mind, I'm saying, like, don't fall. And then I end up literally on the train tracks. I see my head getting, like, my right arm was on the track, and I seen it getting electrocuted. It started twisting, like let's say if you were twisting the water out of a rag or something. That's how my head was, and yeah, it was crazy. And literally, I'm seeing the skin bulge out, no bones broken. So I said, like, this is the calm, subtle voice in my mind again. It's like, okay, if I do survive this, the hand is going to be damaged for life. Anyway, I feel the train vibrating. Long story short, I feel the train starts to run over from the back of my legs all the way up to my lower back, which felt like like 2 minutes. You know, like if you understand how fast the train is going, like it's supposed to be, you know, like damn near instant, but it felt like literally the train was creeping up, and I didn't feel no pain. All I felt was like pressure. Right? My life literally flashed before my eyes. Stopped when I was 8 years old, because there's a particular what's that word? Suit that I was wearing when I was 8, and it just popped in my mind. And after that, brightest, whitest light I've ever seen in my life.
Wow!
When I opened up my eyes, I'm back in the same situation. But hold on, I'm mad nervous and whatnot as I'm talking to you. But basically, as soon as I seen the bright white light, like everything just stopped, and I felt like a hand grabbed me by my shoulder and threw me across the train tracks. I thought it was the police. When I looked up and got out, there was nobody there. I didn't see no train, no police. So I got up and I started running. Then I literally seen the train coming back from the same point where the train was coming from. I seen it was like everything started all over again. But the only difference was I wasn't in the middle of the train. I wasn't in the middle of the train tracks anymore, and I still had the burn on my hand and whatnot. Right?
Wow, that's really interesting, because it sounds like you relive those moments again. In my experiences, I always relive the day. Like the day's reset. It's several hours, but it seems like there was a jump within just a few moments where you had the traumatic experience, then time jumped backwards. You relive those moments again, this time without the damage.
It's like a do-over of reality.
All right, so here's the next crazy part. Right, because that's what I got from it too. Right, like okay, you know, because at that time I was like a super Christian, and you know I thought I was basically supposed to die and go to heaven or whatever, or wait till Judgment Day. But literally, I'm back in the same position. It's like basically I died in Mario and started back all over at the checkpoint.
It sounds like
anyway.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Have you ever pondered the idea that the person that pulled on your shoulder and pulled you off of the tracks was maybe somebody from the future, or somebody,
like myself.
Exactly, like a future self
now
coming and saving you.
Yeah, now definitely I could believe that, because after doing like shrooms and DMT and a whole bunch of stuff, it's like, okay, I understand what's going on.
Let me ask you this. This is a little bit unrelated, but kind of related. So I seem to remember throughout my past certain instances, certain moments, and they're not necessarily any moments that are of any importance, but it's like these moments are etched in my head, almost as if they're like jump points. That if I wanted to, I could jump back to those moments. And I'm wondering if this was one of those moments for you where your current self is jumping backwards to help your past self.
But you want to know, let me fast forward, because this was 2007. Let me fast forward to 2009. This happened in New York. In 2009, me and my best friend, we went to Target. And as I walked in, I forgot my hat at my house or whatever. I forgot my hat at my parents' house. So as I'm walking in, I see somebody walking towards me, and the first thing I say is, I didn't wear my hat today. And I keep walking, and I'm looking, I'm like, this is me. This is me. This is me wearing the hat, and I'm not wearing the hat. He has on the same sneakers. He has on the same jeans. He has on everything to detail. I'm looking at this guy. We're walking past each other. We have the same exact surprise face. But the crazy thing is, I could not say anything to him. I could not say anything. I couldn't reach out. I couldn't stop. It was like I was in autopilot. Man. And the same voice, the same voice that was in my mind, the same calm, subtle voice. Because, if you're in a panic situation, the voice in your mind is going to be, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be panic too. But every time I keep hearing this calm voice, and he's like, okay, everything is all right, da-da-da-da-da. But the voice was like, just keep walking. And I couldn't do anything. You know, I couldn't reach out. I couldn't turn around and go look for him like the guy earlier on your show. They said that they turned around and tried to look for the person. That's the difference. I couldn't look for him. I didn't have the urge to look for this guy, to look for the other me until like weeks later, you know. But there was something that just made me not touch him, not say nothing, just walk past him like I never knew him. But I was super excited inside and I couldn't stop. My friend saw it too. My best friend, he seen it too.
You should totally write a screenplay. Well, I was just going to say you should totally write a screenplay about this and make it about, you know, like the climax of the story is that it's your future self, that the world in the year, you know, 2100 is so horrible that you decided to come back to the past, but also you have clones from the future that came to, and you all have to kind of avoid each other. But you all get to live out your little lives, you know, and you don't have to live in the horrible, you know, future world where there's famine and overpopulation and all of that. I mean, because that would make a really good sci-fi film.
Well, you know, I'm thinking about when I was, I don't know, 18 or something like that, and I was essentially overdosed. You know, and laying on the ground, and blood coming out of my nose and everything like that. And my girlfriend bangs on the door, comes in. Oh my God, are you okay? And I look up and I'm like, I've never felt better in my life. And I've always thought of that as a walk-in kind of experience. Like I found a body and I took it over because it was about to die anyways. But I wonder if maybe it was a future self going back there and saying, hey, you can't do this. You got big things going on here. Maybe that was another one of those moments.
Honestly, bro, I don't know. I don't know. You know, I seen 33. I thought I was gonna die again at 33, and nothing happened. You know, like I kept seeing 33 for like, you know, a long time, thinking like something was gonna happen. But honestly, bro, I really don't know. I really don't know. Every time I take DMT, it's telling me just to come back to this reality and live out the script and don't really worry about anything. And I'm like, that's weird.
I hate that. You know, I smoke DMT and then it says sharpen your sword. Just sit back, do nothing, sharpen your sword. I'm like, God damn it, I want to do something right now. You're not supposed to do anything right now. You know when the time comes.
Oh man, that's crazy, man.
Well, I'm glad to know I got another brother in this, and that other people are experiencing some similar things to what I've experienced. And thank you for the confirmation.
Appreciate it, bro. You guys have a good night, man.
For sure, man.
You too.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, peace.
Got awesome callers tonight.
Yeah, we do.
I think this is Nick Bravo here on 626.
All right.
Is this Nick Bravo?
Yes, this is sorry about the phone problems.
Bravo! How are you, man?
Good. Yeah, it's been interesting with a lot of AI.
You know what? I hate to cut you off, Nick, but it's very, very, very difficult to hear you. I don't know. It sounds like you're on a speaker or something like that. Or in a
restaurant or something.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Oh,
yes,
much better.
Much better.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm still at work. I mean, I'm clocking out. But anyway, so sorry about the music shit. So, yeah, it's the AI stuff. I don't know. It's like I still got quite a few. I almost have to think that some of those stalkers and haters of mine are nothing more than NPC algorithms, because some of the shit that they do is pretty creepy. How they know shit that it's just rather bizarre, you know.
It is. I mean, we've experienced the same. I actually wrote a song called "For the Haters," and the moral of the story for that, I don't know if you've heard it, but I'll play it during this next break, is you've got to take the negative and turn it into positive and transmute it, and that's what it's all about. So the question is, what did you learn from the experience, and how did you grow? And the way I likened it to was like monkeys flinging crap. You know, they're flinging crap, and if you just elevate yourself higher and higher and higher, pretty soon you get to a point where they fling the crap and then it falls right back in their face, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, I've had some interesting, because I've been studying a lot of material on the Egyptian deity Set and I forget the name, but the dung beetle-headed guy. So that's been rather interesting.
The dung beetle guy. I know who you're calling.
Yeah.
I know who you're referring to. Khepri, the mysterious Khepri that is said to be a Mandela effect because nobody's ever seen this dung beetle face.
I don't remember it.
God, any
No, I saw him. When I was in grade school, I was flipping through a book on Egyptian mythology. I saw it. So
Did you?
That was
Okay.
like the only time I had ever seen it until you guys had brought it up on the show. And then it's like, even then, after you guys brought it up, it was like, well, wait a minute, I've only seen it once. Also, with some interesting things about the Hadron Collider and that kind of a thing. I had basically a dream a while ago, and I'm going to be doing some shrooms in the next few months, because I've got to get back into the IRL and figure out what's going on. But I was basically shown this, it was like a multicolored cloud. And you know how like in a bubble bath, you'll have like each little soap bubble, they'll merge, they'll grow, they'll shrink, they'll pop, different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what I was being shown as far as universes. And this entity that was standing beside me, I got a distinct impression it was female. She basically pointed in one direction, so I looked over. And I kind of got this, it was almost like she was telepathically speaking. She said, "That's the world, China, 1970. Watch." And this universe, it started like shifting out of existence. It was doing some weird thing. And I guess in some universe, the Chinese had an Hadron Collider in the 1970s and found a God particle or something. But what happens is, it's a matter of resonance. If the universe can match the frequency of another similar universe, it's going to do it. Because what happens is, when they find the particle, when they do certain things with that collider, what it does is it changes the frequency of basically the dimensional reality. So what happens is, if it matches a frequency, it's going to merge.
Oh, wow.
I keep getting the sense that it's merged multiple times. Maybe this is the first time we've really noticed, simply because you've had a situation where now we have like internet. So now it's like instead of you just standing there in the 1800s and being like, that's interesting. I thought the saloon was over there instead of over that direction. Now it's there's thousands of people saying, oh wait, no, that movie doesn't have that line, it has this line. So it's like now we can get this consensus of consciousness, whereas before we couldn't, which means the entities, the reptilians, all that stuff, they're going to try even harder to basically screw with people. Also, I have been putting up quite a few posts about the demiurge and stuff like that, because as you know, I'm basically studying quite a bit of psychology, and especially with narcissism, codependence, that kind of behavior. What I'm seeing is, and this kind of leads me to a theory on the solipsism dream. So if you're an entity, and think of even somebody in solitary confinement or on a deserted island, you've got a situation where you're completely alone. There's nothing there. Just for sheer entertainment, what are you going to do? You're going to start having conversations with yourself. You're going to name your volleyball Wilson. You're going to come up with all these characters. And the thing of it is, though, the demiurge was not supposed to be conscious. It became, to a degree, it became conscious. The thing of it is, something of that degree of power, it's actually going to be able to create consciousness as well. I'm still not sold on the theory, but it's like...
So we could essentially just be manifestations of the demiurge. If it created all the other consciousness. That's really interesting because Dark Matter 2525. He's a YouTuber that I've mentioned many times on the show. As a matter of fact, we got our live stream cut the other day because I was playing one of his videos, and it wasn't him that did anything. It's just YouTube's algorithm, the way it works. But he's got a series called Power Corrupts, and the premise of the series is that at the very beginning, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but I highly recommend people watch it. It starts out with this student who's named Yahweh, and his parents are Mary and Joseph, and he has an exam that he has to go take at school, which is to be put into a simulation. And then once he's put into the simulation, he becomes the god of his own reality and his own simulation. And he's judged based on how he performs within that simulation. And he fails the simulation, obviously. But it's a futuristic world where power is endowed rather than sought, because that's the only way to do it. And the way they endow power is based on these simulations that they run. So Yahweh's failing this huge simulation, which makes everybody in his simulated universe a manifestation of his consciousness.
Yeah. Well, and if you consider, okay, if you go that route, well then, what are thoughts? Are we nothing more than the thoughts of the demiurge? And in that case, what is the quality of thought? Is it going to have thoughts of, destruction and poverty and evil, or is it going to have, or are the thoughts is the thought process of love and truth and justice and virtue? Is that going to be the one that is the primary mode of thinking? So it's like, in making ourselves better, do we make the demiurge better? Because if you consider within occultism the idea of a thought form or a tulpa or even an egregore, you have the thoughts of human beings feeding into this energy, which eventually the thought form becomes an egregore and eventually becomes a god. Well, okay, then, who created who? And then it becomes a feedback loop. So then, we're still in the matrix, but the question then is, okay, how exactly did the demiurge, what was the context of the demiurge getting in here? Because as far as codependency and narcissism, if you look at, there's a couple of videos on narcissism. It's the concept of, the guy calls it the sad baby concept. Basically what it is the narcissist is the adult narcissist. They're in a state of, they lack a self, they have no ego structure, and just like a baby, every little thing that they feel insecure or vulnerable about, they're going to have a shit fit. And just like a little toddler, knocking something off the table because they're pissed, the demiurge, has the power to basically destroy the planet just because it gets pissed.
That's very true.
Run,
it begs the question, though, is the demiurge really just a metaphor for perhaps something that resides within our own consciousness, the virus that resides within our own consciousness, which can cause, as you say, narcissistic kind of personalities and things like that. I think there's some NPCs that just are running a script, but ultimately, is the demiurge something that exists within us that we have to overcome? What do you think?
Well, these energy processes, these energetic currents they have a consciousness to a certain degree. They want a body so that they can run their program. So it's like, because okay, you guys, you surely know that I've been taking Adderall for like anxiety and crap like that for a while. I can guarantee you that stuff will connect you to the demiurge. That stuff will connect you to the mind virus.
Yeah, I was worried about you when you mentioned you were going to start on that path, but I'm not one to interfere with anybody's path. However, I recognize that for sure. You see that in meth addicts, for example, heroin addicts, things like that, which all connect to that type of mind virus. And really, Adderall is just kind of like soft amphetamine. It is an amphetamine, so. Yeah. How did that journey go? Did you finally get off that journey, or?
I'm I'm working on getting off it just because I don't feel that it was benefiting me. I mean, if marijuana would be legal in this shithole state, I'd be doing marijuana, but it's healthier. But I am working on getting off the Adderall. But I mean, that's one of the reasons that I know the Sethian energy is connecting with me is because, I mean, I literally was like, I don't want to say I prayed for help or anything like that, but it was just kind of like, I guess with a sincere heart, I was like, I need to figure out a way to deal with these energy currents, these haters. And because I mean, if I wanted to be a complete narcissist and act like I'm special, I could sit there and, write some book saying, oh yeah, the demiurges, sent their forces and, from birth it's tried to take me down and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I could be a complete, solipsistic a-hole about it, but, it sounds crazy. And I mean, I'm not so important that, I think, the archons or whatever, I don't think I'm that important that, the demiurge or whatever else that it's these reptilians and stuff. I mean, I never see any of those things really. I mean, I don't know if it's, I'm just not aware of them. Sometimes I wish I would see that kind of stuff, because at least then it would give me kind of assurance that I'm not just fooling myself. Like, because, I fooled myself with believing in Christianity, and I did that for over a couple of decades. And the thing of it is, it's like, I want to be sure of something. I want to see evidence. But at the same time, it's like, I know that these haters, the mind virus, I know that it has affected me to a great degree. But again,
I mean, think about it this way, Nick. We're all in human bodies, and it's a journey. So the best of us fall, and that's what it's all about. Because when you fall, you learn to get back up. You learn to be stronger. You learn to take on more weight, and it's all part of the journey. As long as you recognize it, in my opinion, that there's a certain direction, and we veer off, and sometimes don't even realize we're veered off. But we veer off, and as long as we realize, hey, we veered off, we always get back on track.
Well, I mean, on the bright side, there is a metaphysics store here in town, and they actually have tarot card workshops and discussions every week. So I'm going to that, and the tarot is really, I'm getting back into that. It's really showing me a lot of stuff, and I think I need to just, because the thing of it is a person can use light or darkness for good, or they can use either one for evil, and that's the thing of it. The dark is not necessarily evil. The light's not necessarily good. It's about being consciously aware of, the power that you have and the consequences of what you do. And most people just don't have that. That's the reality of it. And I have to stop being so afraid of being a little bit, hard-edged. I need to develop a thicker skin to a great degree, because, whether I'd like to know the reason that all this is happening, but the reason doesn't matter. I mean, if somebody's coming after you with a ball bat, it doesn't matter. The reason does not matter why. It's, find something to protect yourself.
Yeah, that's true, Nick. But you see, here's the thing: when you fall towards paths like that, and you kind of take on the victim, then what happens is they're actually winning and they're successful in what they're trying to do. You've got to do the opposite. For instance, when they came after us really heavy, we started TFR, and created something completely new, because the radio stations we were on were all screwed up, and there were screwed up people in all of this. And there was one of two things we could do: either run away from it or grow from it. I think you can grow from it.
That doesn't work. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've tried running. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
I thought they leave me alone, but they're not. So, yeah, I need to... I really need to become... Because, as I've said before in the forum, I mean, in this area, there is I mean, I'll walk past some of these churches, and it's just like the energy is so dark and thick and heavy. They think they're worshiping light, and it's like they're feeding into something very nasty. So maybe it's my purpose to be here and shine some light into this darkness. I don't know, but I need to be a lot more responsible and not be a victim. Because it wants to be a victim and hide. That's what it wants everybody to do, and that's the worst thing to do.
Very well said, brother. We're going to let you go because we have a couple more callers, but don't forget, man, you're never alone. We're always here with you.
Thanks.
Love you, bro.
Love you. Bye.
We'll take a couple more callers on the other side. I'm going to take a quick break, but I want to play a song for Nick. That song For the Haters. And hear that? It's the kitty purring. Because I make that pussy purr. What do you think about that, Mrs. Gio?
But is that going to come along with your logical fallacy later on tonight?
I don't know what's coming into me tonight.
It better.
Yeah. Anyway, Sekhmet, I love you so much, but I can't hold you during the whole show. This is not good. People don't want to see me petting the kitty. Look,
making her bunny kick.
She's bunny kicking now.
She does that every time you rub her belly.
Anywhere to put them, and I've got these little mini monitors here. I don't trust them. I don't trust their frequency. Anyways, let's get back into it.
Fellow traveler, the cries of the mistress speak again. Bidding organic consciousness a welcome to the House of Light. The great institution of materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned, like a monster destroying its creator. Science battles itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only your consciousness knows the true path. You, the illuminated, can carry the understanding upwards towards the light. Only your consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect measure, be born again, through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as you are sublimely raised, beyond the veil.
All right, let's get back into it. And somebody said he can hook me up with some plugins for mastering and de-essing. Nikolai, I appreciate it, man. I've got everything. I've got the Fab Filter collection. I've got all the Waves bundles. I've got Ozone, which I don't like the way Ozone sounds. My problem is that, and I'm going to talk shop here for a second. I use the, I've got some of these iLoud monitors, which are really great monitors, these here, but I don't trust them. I've got these Yamahas, which I always get a really, really, really clean mix on, but I don't have a space here where I can set up the Yamahas and actually I can put them like right here, but they'd be too close to the wall in my opinion, and they would just exaggerate the bass sounds. But yeah, the de-essing and all of that. And I already have a lot of sibilance in my voice. I hate that. The slithering serpent.
It's just sibilance.
Yeah, but on a track, you're rapping, and then you hit a tss, which is fine. Then you put a compressor on it, and it raises that hiss. So then you have to bring that hiss down. And I just don't trust these monitors, and I don't trust these headphones either. But yeah. Oh, you've got those monitors too? Awesome. But yeah, so hopefully the next place, I'll have a place where I can set up my Yamahas, and then we'll be good. But those Yamahas are really harsh on the ear, but it's good because it forces you to listen to the mids, which is where you always get all your mud in the mids. And I did global resistance on those Yamahas. Oh my God, I've had those Yamahas for that long. I did global resistance on those Yamahas. I remember I had the Rockets, I think it was, at first, and I just could not get a clean mix on those. Then I got the Yamahas and like
12
first
years.
time, boom, put it in the car. I'm like, this sounds dope. Yeah, anyways, it's all about accuracy. It's all about being able to hear the frequencies accurately. And if you can't, then everything's all out of whack. So again, it goes up to heightening your perception of the frequencies of the matrix, so on and so forth. So I hope I didn't bore the audience with that. But yeah. Oh, and when it comes to ozone too, I don't like the way that sounds. Like I'll put on that automatic mastering and it just sounds flat to me. There's no depth to the mix. I'd rather send it off to a mastering studio and have a mastering engineer like work his magic with all the hardware and everything that they do and really just bring in all the depth of the mixes. And it's funny how my ears have evolved because over 10 years ago, I wouldn't have noticed all of this. Now I'm noticing like every single little detail. And yeah, a lot of the mixing engineers, they like to just like compress the shit out of everything. And I did too when I was 20. And so my mixes would always sound like this. Now I want them to sound like this. I want there to be room. You know, you hear stuff going on in the background. You hear it in the left to right. You know, you get to the chorus and the chorus spreads out to the left and right monitors. And then bringing in the verses right dead center and ad-libs to the left, ad-libs to the right. Yeah. Ad-libs to the front, ad-libs to the side, ad-libs going up, ad-libs coming down from the NYC all the way to H-Town. All right, enough of my tomfoolery. Let's go to area code 505. 505, what's your name? What's on your mind?
Chris Cherie, how are you doing?
Hey, is this M?
Oh my gosh. Hi, guys.
How are ya? I recognize that voice anywhere.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
You don't sound like you're feeling too good. What's going on?
I survived. I made it, guys. I made it.
Did you?
Weird today. Okay, so let me slow down. Thank you. I love you guys. This shift. My best friend, Kayla, her mom said something very important, that some of us in this time would lose our minds, either die or be reborn or awakened. And I think all of us experienced those on different levels, but I don't even know why I said that. Anyway, today, I got back from horse medicine at First Nations, and we were coming back home. I'd seen a car today that had a license plate that said Anunnaki.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Like, what? Like, I was like, is he an alien? I looked at his, at his face, and anyway, I felt that important to share. But, yeah, so, woo! I'm just going to be really honest.
Woo, indeed.
Like,
I know that feeling. I know that woo feeling. That's when you're coming down off the Aya and you're like, okay, I can't even describe what I just saw, but everything makes total sense. I just don't have the words for it.
Yes, and like, okay, so, in 2012, I knew we were shifting, and sorry, I was doing Star Knowledge Conference, and I was dating Jerry at the time, and, okay, so I put a sonic straw on the floor, and Golden Light Chief Eagle was like, okay, we're going to shift the timeline, and you set your intention in what timeline you're going to jump. And I had it, as far as I know, in my heart and soul, to jump into the healing. That was my intention. I was like, I'm going to jump. So I literally jumped across the sonic straw and was like, I'm going to go into the healing timeline. and it's been insane. My friend Kayla and I have had past lives. Excuse me. Her dog just died. I accidentally killed Mikey, and it's just been so insane. Excuse me. I'm okay. The horses protected me today. I've seen lots of angel numbers. We're here to hack the Matrix, and I've been saying that, excuse me, for years, but everyone's been calling me crazy. I'm not crazy. And it's just beautiful in a way because I chose the healing. Excuse me. We're all here to love each other and be here for each other, and I don't know, like you said, the demiurge, everything's coming together. Excuse me. It's just beautiful and like a slow death. So when I jumped in to get Mikey, okay, so we can time jump. So like, okay, Mikey, he's okay. It's just right now he's in the sky world, and it's okay. It's okay. I'm just learning.
It's okay.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I understand.
He crossed the rainbow bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was about 23, 24, I had these two little Chihuahua dachshunds, and they were with me for a long time until I had to put them down because they were just so old, and they were hurting. But we had another dog, and it was my sister's dog, and my sister had pulled up, and she said, "Hey, can you get your mutts out of the car?" And I did, and I grabbed them and I took them out. And I didn't realize that the dog was in the back seat.
Yeah.
And the dog in the Houston, Texas weather suffocated to death from heat stroke. And I felt so horrible for it. But I didn't do it on purpose.
Right.
And I would never, ever do anything like that on purpose. So
Guys, yeah, I was totally being attacked. And you know what's weird? I can't remember her name at the moment. One of the ladies in our BTV fam, she had a dream and it was connected because I was trying to reach out at the time. Frequencies were insane. I know, yeah. So anyway, one of the BTV fam, oh God, I can't, she's on my messages. She had a dream. Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
She had a dream, and I know it was connected to me because I was surrounded by reptilians. But I'm so thankful to y'all. I just think it's okay. It's okay. I was all alone, but all you guys in spirit were with me, and we were with me in the hospital. You were with me with and
we're always together. That's why we came here.
Yeah.
We came here because we needed each other.
Yes. And I made it, and I'm not the best person, but
it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be the best person.
No, you don't have to be the best person. Just be the best person that you can be.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been a journey. The only people that expect you to be the best person and flawless are your haters.
Yeah.
And that's what I found in my time. Your true friends, they understand that this is a journey. Yeah. Your haters are going to look for every flaw that you have and everything like that.
Right.
And say, look, this person isn't Jesus Christ. I never claimed to be Jesus Christ.
Well, and when you choose that healing timeline, that healing path, that means that you have to accept and deal with all of the trauma and all of the pain and all of the, heartache and all of the, all the negative. Choosing a healing path means you have to take that Band-Aid off of the wound and clean it out. And that cleaning out process hurts sometimes, but it's necessary for it to form a scab over it, and then finally a scar. And then those scars, remind you, hey, I was in a bad place one time, but look at me now. And it's all part of the healing process. I know it sucks, and I wish I could give you big hugs right now because I know that sucks, but
yeah,
I feel it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, shoot, it was important. Let me think. Or Phil. Or okay.
I like the way you said that. Let me think. No, let me feel. Yeah.
Shoot, it'll come back.
It's okay. We're all sending you lots of loving energy right now. Everybody in the chat, everybody that's listening is sending you big loving energy and hugs.
Thank you. It was related to the day. Okay, so I touched the horse hoof. It gave me protection. Oh, okay. So I commented earlier. I had a aha moment. And I was like, oh my God. I realized, okay, who knows? Theory. Okay.
It's been 3 hours and 33 minutes. That's funny. And 33 seconds as you're saying this. Yeah, it's funny. There's
cool.
33. Yeah.
Okay, it's good. Okay. Whew, it's heavy. I can do it. Okay. When the Europeans came to give the gold to the indigenous people, that's alchemy, right?
Mm-hmm. It is.
It's okay.
There's a lot of missing indigenous women. I think I have Spaniard in my blood. I don't know everything, but I just...
Here's the thing, though, Em. Here's the thing. We're not our bodies. See, I hear a lot of people talking about DNA activation and ancestors
memory.
And things like that, and I'm like, I'm not even this body. I'm just using this body for the time that I'm here. I've got no connection to ancestors. I've got no connection to past life karma or anything like that. I'm just like here doing something.
Right.
So don't fall for all that.
Don't associate
that stuff.
too much with. Don't associate so much with your heritage that you allow those ancestral traumas to affect you now.
Yeah, because those are all in the matrix.
It's all
matrix experiences.
Yeah, those are just echoes. And if you let yourself get scared by echoes, then you can't ever move forward as your own person, as who M wants to be.
I mean, I'm literally everything.
He is.
Greek, Italian, Native American, you name it. I've got it in me. Who do I connect with? The United Nations? So think about it like that. Like we're all just an amalgamation of a bunch of whatever.
I think that's why our last name is Geo, because Geo means world, and he's just a child of the world. He's not, any one race or...
I'm a child of the light.
Yeah, there you
but
go.
But a product of darkness. A peaceful man, but far from harmless. Always on point. Always the farthest. I write these rhymes, but I'm not an artist.
It's a great song.
Thank you. The mixing engineer is working on that one next. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, last question so other people can get on. Okay, so you guys were talking about the demiurge feeds on our emotions at times, but like to stay in raw consciousness. And when I was horse training, learning about healthy relationships in my horse training today, I was in the middle of a circle that Jared drew, and I had a deja vu today as well. Connected to Kayla because at one point she told me she had a dream that she was in a tornado, and then I had this realization about being in... Okay, it's just intuition to be centered in the eye of the storm. So, like, where was I going with that?
The center of the storm is the calmest, for sure.
Yeah, to stay calm. And, like, shoot, I was working with the horses. What did they say? I lost it. Okay, so, yeah. It's just staying centered and calm. Oh, Jared lost his keys today. Oh, and then, okay, yeah, your stream was cutting out and blacking out, and I was realizing there was a glitch in the Matrix, and then I jumped accidentally to this live. Someone was gaming, and all I heard was I found the key, and then I was like, okay, I got the key. Yeah. It's all. Oh, and then I was asking Jared, like, okay, so we all come from the same source, but it's all connected?
I don't think we come from the
How
same.
do you find your center in that? Okay, because Jared said the same thing today, and he's like, I didn't say it was all connected, and I was like, you did say that though, and then I was explaining my mushroom, and he's like, that's a conversation for another day, so maybe we'll talk again, but yeah, it's like, okay, what do you guys feel? It is all connected, but it's not.
Everything is connected.
We don't come from the same source.
I don't think we come from the same source, but inside of the Matrix, I think everything is connected. Events are connected in a chain reaction. We came from the same tribe to come in here to make a particular change. So we are connected on that sense. We're connected because we begin to vibrate at the same frequency. So it's like when at least this is what they say. Maybe Cherie, you can tell me about this. I know you want to take off, but is it true, Cherie, that when women get together and they stay together for a period of time, their menstrual cycles will actually start to go at the same time?
Yeah,
because they start to create that connection amongst each other.
Yeah, it's like an energy. It doesn't have to do with energy as much as it has to do with hormone levels. When it's the same pheromones that are responsible for attracting a mate that you see with animals and with humans, actually, on a biological level, it's those hormones that when you're around other women.
Well, yeah. Okay, that's a little too long of an explanation.
Yeah.
I'm just making the point that it's like that, but on a spiritual level or ethereal level or consciousness level, because when we come in and we're all working together, we become more and more and more connected because we start to vibrate together at that same frequency.
Yeah.
So everything is connected, but at the same time, it doesn't originate from the same source, in my humble opinion. I think that we come from different places, some of us, but we're all here together working for the same common goal. But the whole idea of one consciousness being split into many different consciousness, I don't like that. I want to keep my individuality. I want to keep my sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, thank you guys. I put up the sun discs on both of my doors in my room, the same door that I let Mikey out with the pulleys, and then here on my front door. But I have them over my doors. Thank you guys.
So what, if you don't mind me asking, what happened to Mikey?
He drowned in our pool because I accidentally put him outside because a lot of traumatic stuff happened up until that point.
So let me ask you this: Did he come up to you like the day before, or the day of? Was he like extra sweet, extra cuddly?
Oh my God, no. I was really suicidal in bed, and he was dying at my feet.
How old was he?
16.
Oh, he was 16. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
See, we had one of ours, and he was eaten by a coyote.
Yeah.
And we were in the suburbs at the time, and I had we lived in the country. And I had let these guys go outside and inside as they pleased, There was no reason whatsoever. But he came up and he was extra cuddly. And then he walked outside and he was gone. And I felt horrible.
Yeah.
But it's like almost like they know. They're saying, hey, I know it's my time to go. 16 years old. He knew he needed to go. Yeah. I mean, if he was dying there, realistically, I mean, I know it's a horrible thing to think about, but I realized after I put the other one to sleep, I should have done it before.
Right.
Because I let him suffer way longer than was necessary.
Yeah.
So Mikey,
That's what happened with Mikey.
he left.
Yeah, he
because
left.
he knew it was time for him to go. He was hurting too badly. So I don't think there's nothing you should feel bad about.
Right.
Because you would have had to do that regardless if you were a loving parent to Mikey.
Yeah.
So it's okay. He chose to go on his own.
Yeah, and I couldn't, okay, I'll just share this real quick, but, yeah, he came to heal my childhood wound of abandonment because my mom never wanted me, and I knew that when I lost my mind, and he helped me heal my childhood wound in a way.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
That's what they do.
You know, I think sometimes, and it's not terrible to say that, because I think sometimes our pets will show up in our lives to help heal us. And then when they're done, then they move on. You know,
that's true. They take a part of us with them, because what I've identified them as I've said before, a programmable consciousness. So they're kind of like just empty slates,
blank slates,
and then we actually take a piece of us and we implant it upon them.
Yeah,
and that's why when they go, it feels like a piece of us is gone, because we have given them a piece of us.
Yeah,
and they give us a lot. Like for instance, right now, Bastet, who just crawled in my lap, has left me with a lot of cat hair. It's her gift to me, which is making me itch all over my face and my nose.
That's what happened to me last show with Sekhmet. She got her hair all in my mouth and everything.
We're here with you though, Em. We really are. And we got to let you go. We got to get to one more caller. Then Cherie's hurting. She's got to go. She's got to go lay down. But we love you, and you have so many people here. Just look in the chat room how people have been speaking as you've been speaking. You've touched a lot of people out there tonight. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. I love you guys so much. And you know what? The last thing I'm going to leave with that I know I learned from Mikey and everything that's happened, life is sacred.
Yeah, it is.
To be respected.
Yep.
We love you.
I love you guys.
Love you,
Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Take
For sure.
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh. We've got a lot of really deep callers tonight.
Yeah, we do.
Let's go to, we have area code 209 holding. We're going to take that one last because I want to go to Matt Simon, who I was talking to earlier today, and it's been a while. We need to schedule a show with Matt because I want to give him a good full time to speak. But Matt, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great, Chris.
Good.
Sherry, how are you?
Excellent. I'm okay. Doing good.
Sure, you look tired.
I'm sorry. My finger keeps dislocating, and it needs a thing for it.
I'll tell you what. Why don't you take off?
Yeah.
And I'll wrap it up. So don't worry about it.
I love you guys.
We love you.
All
and
right.
you can take the little fur machines
balls
with you.
with me. Okay.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
All right. What's going on, Matt?
Chris, so, I'm cool. Early on today, the call dropped. Someone tried calling me, and the call ended up dropping while I was speaking to you. But I'm thinking I may need two shows. I have the high level stuff that I will explain to you, which we can communicate. But I want to dedicate a talk with you and listeners on the show, where everyone can interact and have a talk. Because I've been doing the work on the ground level where I can now help people, especially like M. I want to dedicate that talk to M, like how life is, like how the understanding of life, how to separate yourself from cultural and so on, because we've been jumping. Even some of those same people who persecuted what you will believe as your blood ancestors, we all, some, not all of us, but some of us could remember being one of those persons in total control with the programming and not knowing that we were a conscious being and doing the slaughtering, just like the history we are looking back in now. And we are reincarnated now and now know who we are. So we can't really get too involved and allow our energy to go out. Yes, it's a saddening thing, but you need to know where to cut off and not let your energy portray into these areas, because all these things are trapped and the system needs us in order to function. We are the one with the power, and it's our energy what make the system function. So I have a breakdown of everyday living, like how the last show that I will on, how I try to break down things to help people understand, especially not just people, but conscious beings like myself, I was once in your spot where I didn't fully understand a lot of things. So I just passing through. I just want to say hi, say I love everyone. I am fine. I heard people were asking about me. I had a lot of things happen, crazy stuff, but I was prepared because I myself saw the forecast, how things are going. And right now, the entire system is playing a mind game on us. It's no longer brutal, trying to force you into place. It's more like subtle mind games, drawing your energy, distracting you with different things, and so on. Mainstream news distracting you, politics distracting.
Absolutely. Did we lose you? Oh man, it has been like this every time I try to connect with Matt. We always lose the connection, even earlier when we were talking. Matt,
are you still hearing me, Chris?
There you go. All right. Yeah. We've got you back.
Yeah. Where did you lose me from exactly?
You had mentioned that we all have the connection and that they're manipulating our reality and our energy, essentially.
Yes, correct. This is something really, really subtle. It's being done very subtle. A lot of distractions, a lot of things pulling our energy. As was forementioned, things like you have to, I'm not saying to ignore things, but you have to learn to look, observe, and see what I'm doing. I was speaking to one of the, a good friend that I made from on BTV in the chat. We have communication with one another and so on for a while now. And we spoke about 3 hours before the show started over Skype. And I was discussing to her some of the things that I had in my mind. Now, she can take some of the heavy stuff, because she understands that. But I will also express in the everyday life, like the everyday living that we live in, things that is not at that level, but the things that really messed us up on the ground level because we are not conscious enough. And we allow these things to keep us on a very basic level and can't really get into the deeper stuff or even understand. And that is what I want to talk about on one of the shows, like really get into that place and make people see and understand the trickeries of how the system uses certain things to distract and deter you away from the place that you're destined to and really focus on. And all of us has a piece of the puzzle, Chris. All of us has a piece of the puzzle, and I believe that this is my part to really, I'm a strategist. I'm sitting down, I'm watching the system, I'm figuring out what, remember, some time back, I told you I remember that there's another faction. And just before I called, I heard you mention that we are a part of one faction that is here for a common goal. Well, I'm defining and getting really close. Now, what I remember when I stated back then, it was set. And I'm really trying, I'm following the lineage, I'm following the manipulations, how the NPCs are being drawn by a main brain behind the entire function. And it's all working against us. So there's a lot of things to talk about, but I want to make it short.
Let's let's set that up and do that here in the near future. We're going to be relocating over the next couple of weeks. Well, actually, we have about 2 weeks before we leave. So hopefully we can get that done before we relocate. But our schedule is kind of volatile right now. But let's definitely see if we can set something up for sure. I think we might have lost him again. He's very mysterious like that, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can get a good connection to him when we actually do a show. So I think we might have skipped over Albuquerque. I don't think we did, but they've been holding for a while. So let's go to, I think we might have gotten to them. I don't remember. 505.
Hi, Chris. You got to me.
Oh, it's still you. Okay, it's still him. Okay, cool. All right. All right, cool. Love you. Let's go to area code 209. Thank you so much for holding for so long. 209, what's your name? What's on your mind?
Hi, Chris. This is M. Hawkins.
Hey, how are you?
I'm awesome. I'm going to keep it under 5 minutes because I know you're ready to go.
No.
So
You're good. You know, first of all, let me say thank you. You donated for the cat tree, and that just touched my heart because it was for the babies, and they love that thing so much. I just wanted to just tell you that, you know, not in person, but you know, with my voice rather than just in the chat room. So, you know, thank you for that. That really meant a lot.
It makes me happy. It's good. Spoiled pets are necessary.
Oh, they are spoiled. They're very entitled to. They wake me up at 6 o'clock every morning to let them outside and to give them treats. And I'm like, Daddy's sleeping right now. They both come. It's amazing. But, you know, they're our little protectors. What can we do but just take the best care of them that we possibly can?
Do they get on your head when they wake you up? Do they like step on your face or do they just jump up on the bed?
No. They get on my chest. First they'll come in, Sekhmet is the first one, and she comes and she claws at me. And if I don't get up, then she gets on my chest. And if I don't get up, then Bastet will come. So, yeah, they don't do that with Cherie, though. They realize Daddy's the one that will give them anything they want.
I remember when they were so small and I think it was I felt bad, like it was kind of hurting her feelings because they were in a certain way affectionate, you know, with you, and it was a little bit more difficult to kind of break it in with her, and I felt so bad, but it seems better now. It seems better.
Oh, yeah. They sleep with her all night and then they wake me up. So, yeah.
Okay.
And it's funny because I'm working, you know, I'll work here on my computer. They decide it's their time. So they will come and they will move the keyboard out of the way and get in my lap. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, I've got all this work to do. But hey, you know, that's how it goes. Anyways, what's on your mind?
Such a blessing. Okay. So you're the reason that I kind of got onto this. So just stick with me. If I talk kind of fast, just let me know. Okay. You said something a couple weeks ago about being off script, and it was kind of in relation. I think we were maybe in a political discussion, and for some reason, I don't know why, that night after that live stream, I went looking for information because it occurred to me that you know how Trump is associated with 777. I'm sure you're aware of this.
I have not. No, actually, I haven't heard that. No. Tell me about that, please.
Oh, okay. Well, just for instance, the day that he was inaugurated he was 70 years old. It was the 7th month and 7th day of his life. There's a list of hundreds of things that relate him to 777. I mean, it's so crazy that it's beyond anything that could be coincidence. I'm trying to think like off the top of my head. Let's see. It's related to the eclipse. There's 7. Okay, just for instance, like when he met with Putin, it was July 7th of 2017, and Putin on that day was exactly 777 months old. He was born. During his 77th week in office. He became 700 days older than Israel when they were recognized as a nation. So that made Israel 77 days old when Trump was 777 days old. And it just keeps going and going. And there's just all this craziness. Like during the campaign when he would be talking about President Lincoln, as it turns out, he has all these weird 777 relationships to Lincoln as well. Like how old he was let's see here. Like
His childhood home is available on Airbnb that you can rent for $777 a night.
What?
Yeah.
Now that one I did not know. Are you really?
Yeah, there's a
that's crazy.
article right here. The boyhood home of U.S. President Donald Trump is available to rent on Airbnb, and it's furnished with a life-size cardboard cutout of the man for a cost of $777 a night in Queens, New York.
It doesn't surprise me because it's literally, I mean, everything associated with him somehow plays out into this 777 code. It's bizarre. You can look at from his family to his association with President Lincoln, and he had during the campaign in 2016, he kept using this phrase about returning power to the people. So for some reason, I don't even know why it clicked in my head. I went on this little looking glass information seeking mission, and I found a developer in Sweden who did a VR pass-through in Linux using a virtual box, and he called it the Looking Glass. Now, I mean, he's not, he has no, it was just a fluke thing that I found him, but we were kind of having like a communication problem because he didn't speak really good English. So I just went to his GitHub page basically to kind of look through his documentation. And so I don't know how familiar you are. Well, you've been a developer, right? So you kind of know how this works.
Yeah, but
right? Like how
real quick, I'm looking here. This is very weird. I'm going to put it up on the screen. So I typed in Donald Trump in PBS NewsHour, and he appears. His page is page 777, and that's where all the Donald Trump articles are. Yeah.
Okay, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, it's
wow.
So crazy. It's so crazy. So when I'm on the GitHub page, I go to his folder where he's got documentation about change modification numbers. And when you're in a developer screen and you're moving things around and changing the names of things as a developer, everybody knows that you never rename a folder 777. Okay, and the reason why is because you've got three like access levels. You have basically everyone, you have groups, and then you have the admin. And obviously with the admin being the person that has, it can do anything inside the folder.
You're referring to folder permissions. Yeah, folder permission is 777 where you give, you're basically giving any program access to that folder if you give it 777 permission.
Exactly. And that's why you never do it. And then it occurred to me, and I was like, wait, because it gives every level of user the permission to read, write, and execute, which is something you never want to do. And then I thought, wait a minute. And he kept using this phrase during his campaign about giving power back to the people. And then I remember you saying that we're off script. So I went into a developer screen. Look, this is so crazy. And on mine, it's white font on a black screen. And when you go to change a folder to 777, do you know how it alerts you? It changes the text orange.
Orange man bad.
Okay, look. So when this is happening, I'm like, okay, you're getting a little out there. Sometimes I have to check myself. So I thought, this is crazy. So I went right away and I said, let's see what happened on the 777th day of his presidency. And guess what? It was my birthday. So I was like, okay.
Wow.
I must be on the. Sometimes I just have to ask, for a little sign if I'm getting off on some crazy tangent or to bring myself back. And when I typed that in, the 777th day, and it came up my birthday, I went, oh, come on, really? So from a technical point of view, I just think that it's really interesting that he would be associated with that number, and that number is what you don't do as a developer because you're basically opening up the program to everybody.
That is amazing because, one of the first conspiracy theories surrounding Trump, obviously, is the time travel theory, which when I heard, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But then understanding that his uncle was John Trump, right. I think was his name. Yeah, and he was assigned with looking over at all of Tesla's research papers. It suddenly brought some validity to it. And then you mentioned Looking Glass, and that's what people are theorizing, that he has some kind of Looking Glass technology.
And that's why I went down that road with the Looking Glass. And I just happened to stumble across this Linux developer. And that's what he had named his little project that he's working on, which is awesome. But he's like a gamer. And so, like I said, we were having a problem communicating. So I just went to his GitHub page. And then that's when I found the permissions folder and was reading. And I don't know why it never occurred to me. But then it was so funny when I put it in the screen and it changed orange. And I went, this is too much. So it's just interesting because you made the off script thing. And I'm like, because nothing about him makes any sense, really. It doesn't. I mean, people, some people are like, oh, he's just a really good chess player. No, he's not. It's more than that. You know what I mean? And he's glitched something for sure, I feel.
He says the complete opposite of what you would expect somebody to say or do. And he comes out on top every single time.
Every single time. Every time. And no matter what they do, they can't touch him. And it's just like they're just flailing. It's like, watching a chess game where the people know who's going to win, way before the game's over. And as long as the other person doesn't make a mistake, the game is over way before it's actually over. And that's kind of like how I feel it is right now. Like it's just flopping and flailing around and just throwing shit to see if it sticks to the wall, and they can't touch him. And it's crazy weird. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I don't want to know what I think, because then we'll get a bunch of hateful comments and people will unsubscribe and everything like that, because they hate this man. They hate him with a passion. And I'm like... Yeah, no, and I don't want to talk politics. I'm just more stuck on this 777 thing. It's freaking me out. Well, I think there's something to it, and I think we're seeing a genuine change in the Matrix that is definitely not on script. Agreed. I don't know if you've been watching this impeachment at all, but so what happened is, in a nutshell, not only is it a circus, but he's making them beg for their own demise. They're begging for witnesses. They're going to call Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and it's all coming unraveled. All of the energy corruption and money laundering. Look, an energy company does not launder money, okay? There's no money for them to launder if they're an energy company. They're laundering money from drugs. They're laundering money from human trafficking. They're laundering money from all of that stuff that's being revealed. And he's yelling, don't throw me in the briar patch, don't throw me in the briar patch. And they're saying, we're going to throw you in the briar patch. And they're throwing him in the briar patch. He's like, well, guess what? Here we go. It couldn't have been better planned. Right. It couldn't have been better planned. It's wonderful.
After 3 years, they don't get it.
Yeah, I think they do get it. They're clutching at straws because they know where it's heading. It's heading towards completely being toppled, and it has been toppled. And I was laying in bed with Cherie earlier, and I looked at her and I said, this is the best state that we've ever seen this country in our entire lives, and we're in the middle of an impeachment. This speaks volumes, in my opinion. I mean, yeah.
Did you see what he did this morning during the hearing when he was in the other room and put the poster of Israel up with capital and the land that he's going to give? And I'm just like, what is happening right now? What is happening?
I didn't see that. I didn't see that. I don't agree. Yeah, I don't agree with his policies with Israel. He moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which created a whole upheaval over there. Okay. But yeah, that's what it was about. But see, here's the thing: Trump knows how to play the game. He knows you have to appease Israel. He's not. I don't think he's a puppet of Israel. I think rather he's just giving them something just to be, to create a good deal. And he's doing that with everybody. He's doing that with North Korea. He's doing that with China. He's doing that with Russia. He's doing that with everybody, but he's not a puppet to anybody. That's just what I'm gathering from what I can see. Yeah.
He wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. That's who he is. That's what he does. I mean, and as long as it works out good for America, I don't really see what everybody's beef with him is.
Not only America, though. This is so much bigger than America. This is the world.
So much bigger.
It's peaceful. I mean, of course, we have our conflicts that have been going on, but we haven't started any new conflicts. We're pulling out of old conflicts. We're starting to undo everything that the old oligarchy and system of control has done. And I can see things heading into a very peaceful environment when everybody on the board is happy. And that's what he's doing. He's making everybody on the board happy.
I mean, I still can't get over that you pulled that page up and it was 777.
777. Yeah, I showed it on the screen too, so it's right there.
There's definitely something to it. It is weird. Yeah.
It is.
There was one other thing that I wanted to say really quick. There's a lot of people in this group that obviously go onto other channels like Jay Chris's channel and Quantum of Conscience, and so in talking with SMQ and Maddie, we were kind of trying to pull something together for this summer, and because it just seems like it's important for everybody. I don't know, everybody's talking like they want to do something to get everybody together, so that's something that we're working on. If you guys want to be, I think that we should include as many people as possible. Like I said, a lot of listeners are back and forth across. I see people in the chat, in a lot of other channels.
That'd be awesome. So yeah, SMQ, he's actually a host on TFR as well. So I haven't really spoken to him too much, but I know he's definitely good people. Where are you guys thinking?
Okay, well, nobody really had a place, so being crazy person that I am.
Let me guess. Oh, okay. I was going to say it's not Burning Man, is it?
No. On my property, I have 100 acres in the mountains.
Oh, do you really? Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, I'm there. There's everything here. There's outdoor showers. Everybody has access to restrooms. They can camp, shoot guns, bring your kids. You can bring your animals as long as they don't fuck with my chickens. And people could just do whatever they want. There's a swimming pool here. There's stuff for the kids to do. They can ride the quads or go hiking or do whatever. And I have a whole outdoor kitchen, barbecue area, everything. Everything will be managed perfectly fine. I just want people to be able to. We just want people to come and just be together and just chill.
That's awesome. No, we would love to do that. What part of the country is it in?
California.
Oh, really? Nice. We're going to be right up the road from California here pretty soon. So yeah.
I was thinking that might be the case.
Yeah. We're getting close, but not in California because I hear that it's kind of rough over there these days. But
it is rough if you're not in the rural area. It is definitely rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're thinking like the last weekend in June, maybe.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. Love you. Thank you so much. This call has been freaking awesome, Em, because I didn't know about all these connections. Now you're going to send me down a rabbit hole, and I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off over the course of the next couple of shows. But hey, it's awesome.
It is awesome. It is. Thank you.
Cool. Love you. Take care.
All right.
Oh my God, I gotta say, you guys and gals are just the freaking best of the best. These callers were awesome. If I can be critical here for a second, I was listening to Clyde's callers and they weren't really making any sense. And I'm kind of glad he let us go during that last hour, because I would have much rather take you guys and gals' calls, because these were just, these are so energetically filled, so passionate, so all of that. So, I guess, since, okay, so I made the reference to the T-Rex earlier, right? Trump, thug life, I made the reference to the T-Rex, right? So this is actually what I was referencing earlier. Oh, wow, that's funny. I put Trump thug life beyond the veil and we show nowhere up. People have been leaving messages on our videos saying, hey, I can't find your videos anywhere. Even top-rated videos with 500,000 views, like people are legitimately leaving comments on there. You should be able to find it. Trump Thug Life Beyond the Veil. It should come up #1 top. Yeah, we're definitely shadow banned. Let me see if I can find it by going directly to our channel. I put this together because it was more of an expression of how I felt at the time when I heard this happen. And I'm going to cut this out of the archive because it's got a copyrighted song on there, and YouTube kind of sucks like that. But don't tell me I removed it. Maybe it got removed for copyright. Hold on, bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, because this is freaking hilarious. You know what? I think it did get removed for copyright. Let me see if I still have it on the channel here, though, because I would like to share it with you guys and gals. Or maybe I removed it because of all the anti-Trump trolling and everything like that. You know, it's a shame. I mean, I might as well just say this. You know, it's a damn shame when people have been conditioned to prevent people from speaking their minds. You know, yeah, I just had to like ask myself, you know, what's more important, the Beyond the Veil stuff, or for me to speak my mind about that situation? And I've come to the determination it's that situation is more. I mean, the Beyond the Veil stuff is more important. That situation isn't as important. Are you kidding me? Oh, here it is. No, it's set. No, it's set to public. No, that's a different video. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to ramble. I guess I removed it. So I guess I'll leave you with this here. This is Mark Hamill, who does the Joker voice, reading a tweet as reading a Donald Trump tweet as the Joker. That is hilarious.
Happy New Year to all, including to my many enemies and those who have fought me and lost so badly. They just don't know what to do. Love.
Anyways, on that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be, and we'll see you even further beyond the veil.